One point we were walking through it is an amazing tour of the whole house. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020 election, because I know he used the word lost. And I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off. He'll just go on. Not at all.
Want to get it off your chest? You're in the right place. They accuse this show of being run by boobs. Well, let me tell you about us boobs. We're real and we're spectacular. Want politics and fun sprinkled with a lot of laughs? Heard in every state in the Union and 1,000 cities around the world. We just finished 16 years of broadcast excellence, now in our 17th year. The Dave Weinbaum Show is streaming live all over the world. This morning and last night, I had to think about the monologue. And I'm thinking to myself, do I want to regurgitate the news? Because nothing really new has happened. Some things, but nothing really major, all right? They just keep saying the same crap all over again versus a heartfelt defiance by one of Missouri's great legislators, Bill Hardwick. He sent me this clip. It's about 2.5 minutes long, and it's wonderful, wonderful, protesting Amendment 3. So last week this was on, and we were playing it, and his speech, and it seems like we were the only one that heard it in the studio here. Everyone else, even the guests that was on there, was tapping their ears because they couldn't hear it. So without further ado, I turn the mic to a historic speech in Congress about 1.5 weeks ago. Bill Hardwick.
The distinguished gentleman from Pulaski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to speak on the bill.
Proceed, gentlemen.
Mr. Speaker, last year we had the Amendment 3 debate in our districts, and many of you did and made our positions where we were. And in my district, I argued vociferously against Amendment 3. Tried to put up signs, I did town halls, I did debates, and everywhere I went, I said that my conscience and my beliefs about what was right and wrong believes that this should not be in our Constitution. And everywhere I went, I said, even if it does pass, because it's such a core belief that I believe in, I'll fight to repeal it. I'll fight to take out what I think should not be in the Constitution and replace it, which I think we should uphold, which is a principle and a value of life. So I did that to the utmost of my ability, but my district still voted to approve Amendment 3 at the end of the day. However, at the same time, my district voted to re-elect me by 71%, knowing that that was a central position, and knowing that I even said at many town halls, I'm willing to lose my seat, even if it costs me votes, in order to fight against Amendment 3. So I got elected, and I'm back here now, and if I ask the question, what do I do? What do I do with this choice that I'm presented, where I have this contradiction between what the voters voted on and what I said that I would uphold no matter what if I were elected? And so what I'm left to do is do what I truly believe in. And I want to describe what I believe in, first of all, as something I believe in math and logic. And here's a principle in mathematics and logic, that if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. It's called the transitive property of equality. It means if one thing's equal to something else, and that's equal to something else, they're all equal. And why is that relevant to what we're talking about? Because if any human life at all is worth protecting, is valuable, means something is not just nothing in a nihilistic universe. If any of our lives matter, then all of our lives matter. Or the other possibility is none of our lives matter. Logically speaking, there are just two things that could exist. Either none of our lives are important, none of our lives worth protecting, or every single life is worth protecting. And I believe deep down inside, to the chagrin and the disagreement to many of my colleagues and people around the state, I believe every single life is worth protecting. Whether you have a disability, whether someone has Down syndrome, no matter what their race is, no matter whether they're a Republican or Democrat, every human life, and yes, I believe, is a gift from God. And I don't know why tragic things happen and horrible things happen, but I know that I believe that life comes from God and God wants us to live. And I think that my duty here in this place is to do every single thing I can to protect life and uphold life. And I think that the mother is a human life and the baby is a human life. And our duty as legislators is to protect both of them as people who have equal worth and value, just like everybody in our state. And so this bill comes before us. It's the opportunity to do what I said I would do and do what I believe in. And so it's easy for me to vote yes. It's easy for me to vote yes for that precept and that principle. And it's been said, I think it's been said on the floor, you guys will just keep fighting, you keep going for it. Yeah, if something you truly believe in is that important and matters that much as what we say about all human life, there's nothing more basic and important and central as to whether or not any one of our lives matters. I think a lot of us are not here holding our nose voting for it. I think a lot of us are here for this very reason. It's why we ran for office. It's why we came to the legislature, to uphold this basic principle that every human life is important and that every human life has equal worth and value ontologically, and that there's no higher good than us protecting that and defending that. And so I hope everyone will vote for this resolution. I know I certainly will. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this? I know. Your mind is blown. So's mine. There were so many moments when I hit him with a joke or contradicted something, and no problem. At dinner, he was asking me about the nuclear situation in Iran in a very genuine, hey, I think you're a smart guy, I want your opinion sort of way. And I said, well, obviously you're privy to things about it, I'm not, but for what it's worth, I thought the Obama deal was worth letting play out because we made Iran destroy 98% of the uranium and they were 15 years away from a bomb. And then I said to him, but we got rid of that. You got rid of that. He didn't get mad or call me a left-wing lunatic. He took it in.
Hi there, this is Dave Weinbaum. I'm here after shirking my responsibilities as a host to do the opening monologue, but you know what? I thought that was better than what I had to say today. And I'm not weaseling out. Stop thinking that he weaseled out of doing the monologue. Okay, if you must, you can accuse me of that. But welcome to my lovely bride here, who cooked a wonderful, wonderful meal last night.
Thank you.
I always say you're a lousy cook. I do not always say that.
I've never said that.
What did you say last night? You said it last night.
No, I didn't.
You said you never like what I cook. Never. What does that mean? Okay, I'm not gonna get into a fight here.
Good.
But I'm trying to compliment you. I love we had a what do we have? We had a ribeye. Prime rib. Oh my God, it was
on sale at Kroger.
So good. And we got it. We got it with.
And you're eating it again tonight.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
I'm going to the Lincoln Day dinner.
Yeah, I know. And if I make it to dinner tonight, then I'll eat it. We've got JP Maxwell here. Hi, JP. How you doing?
Good morning, everybody.
Rick Henderson back in Salem does all the bits and the clips, and we've got a great show for you. We've got coming up next JJ Bradshaw. After him, we've got Rabbi Moshe. Should be a lot of interesting stuff going on in Israel. Then we've got Chris Adamo, 9:30, and then Bob Willis, special treat. Guy's a great lawyer, and he happens to be my personal golf coach. How's that? And Richard C. Lockwood is going to be on last. Let's see what he has next about space aliens. Should we spend the money to send space aliens who were illegal back to their own planet? Now, wouldn't that be something if that actually progresses to that? And with that, I give you a man who is he's not at home. I think he's at a shooting contest. He is a First and Second Amendment. Uh, he's a genius. Let's face it. And he's 256 years old, not old enough to get some Social Security like some 360-year-old guy, but he is substantial and he is a brilliant guy. Please welcome all the way from Rolla, Missouri, J.J. Bradshaw.
Well, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. How are you?
You know, I'm just grinning from ear to ear.
Why is that?
You mentioned a couple of things in your monologue. Number one, that this has been kind of a slow news week.
Yeah.
Normally you and I are just drowning in stuff to talk about. This week has got some nuances to it that I think are important. But the second thing was your monologue. You played Bill Hardwick's speech.
What do you think of it?
Well, I thought it was pretty good. Let me mention a few things that you and I have talked about months ago that are relevant to that. If you recall, that amendment made Missouri an abortion state.
Yes.
You hate it. Lisa hates it. Joe Dalton hates it. I hate it. Gene hates it. And, we're a fairly conservative state. So about the time of that election, right after that election, in fact, we were all stunned that this thing actually passed in Missouri. Fairly conservative, pro-life state.
Yeah.
So I looked into it back then, and a couple of things are relevant. Number one, that legislation was carried by St. Louis, Columbia, and Kansas City. That's how that vote ended up in a positive fashion. But what galled me back then and what galls me today, and I'll bet what galls Bill Hardwick, is there was a tremendous amount of out-of-state money that came flooding into Missouri, Planned Parenthood money. And it seems to me that we shouldn't allow our state to be influenced by a bunch of outsider money.
I said that to Mayhew and Hardwick. What are these outsiders doing affecting our elections?
That's absolutely what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is Missouri. Missouri citizens vote. We ought to vote our conscience, but those who are pro and con ought to be within this state and not flood a whole lot of New York and Washington, D.C. Planned Parenthood money in here to influence election.
Exactly.
Doesn't that smack of election fraud?
Absolutely.
Doesn't that sound like what they've been
like the definition of it?
Trump for?
Exactly.
So I don't know if there's legislation that can be done to make this problem go away. But when you forced me to re-identify with that election, which in my opinion was stolen by out-of-state money, and I'm glad Hardwick is bringing it back up, and I think he's doing the right thing. And Don Mayhew. At least we have some representatives that actually represent us.
My wife is squeezing berries and the liquid is going all over my arm. What the hell's going on? We're doing a show here.
It's the strawberry.
I don't care what it is. I'm talking to J.J. Maxwell and I'm feeling a drip. I'm trying to see, did somebody shoot me here? Do I have a bullet hole in there? No, I got strawberry stained.
What kind of kinky stuff are you people engaged in?
I don't know. My wife is.
There's no whipped cream.
No whipped cream.
At least turn the damn video off. We can handle the audio, okay? I
think. All right. Well, you got a board or something like that I can put between us? My God.
Live radio, you get this sort of stuff. And
yeah, apparently.
Yeah, apparently it blows up in your face every now and then.
Yeah, you got that.
I got a little bit of national stuff to talk about. Like I said, this was a nuanced week. Not a lot of hoorah headlines, but let me talk about some approval ratings right quick. You know,
Yeah.
you and I have disliked Chuck Schumer for decades.
Oh,
He is a mealy-mouthed, corrupt politician,
an
and
anti-Semitic Jew.
an anti-Semitic Jew. That's absolutely right. And
We need to
boy,
say more about him.
there's an oxymoron for you if there ever was.
Yeah.
But let's talk about his approval rating, because, you know, Pelosi and Schumer ran the show with an iron fist for the longest time. And Chuck Schumer's approval rating in a poll that was done last Wednesday is at a 20-year low.
Yeah.
20-year low. AOC, now this is among Democrat voters, okay?
Yeah.
AOC got a 47% favorable rating. Hochul, who is governor of New York, 44%. Schumer, 39%. The guy is 10 points underwater just in a matter of a month.
Yeah.
Well, why is that? Well, believe it or not, us Republicans have considered Schumer to be an obstructionist for decades now. And surprisingly, Democrats who claim that they are going to vote are finding him to be an obstructionist as well. The antics that he has performed in the Senate in front of the podium, I never have liked. Apparently, there's a whole lot of Democrats that don't like. These are the mainstream Democrats, actually, which is his voting bloc. So, Chuck, it may be that you're going to fade away, kind of like Pelosi did. I will applaud that. I'll bake you a cake for your leaving. I'm so pleased.
There's also another story to that, and that's AOC beating up on these people. And I'm sitting there listening to her. She doesn't have a brain, but she tells stories very well. She's a good speaker. Okay, and so that that's all the Democrats got, anyways, is people that can speak very well. They're 98% wrong, but okay, so what, right? But they sound good.
The big trouble with AOC, Dave, is
Yeah,
she doesn't have any principles.
she
And
doesn't have brains.
when she
Give
opens
me a
her
break.
mouth, there's a tremendous amount of stupid that happens there.
But so yeah, but that's well, okay. Democrats stupid. What are you saying?
Well, yeah, of course. The fact is, though, that they consider her to be a rising star.
Yeah, well, okay.
Would you really hitch your wagon to that mule? I don't think so. I think any reasonable person is going to look at her and say, this is an empty pantsuit here. There's not a lot of relevance coming out of her. Yet she's considered a rising star.
Yeah.
She's considered a comparable to Chuck Schumer as far as electability is concerned. My goodness, Dave.
No,
These
she's
people are
no longer in that realm. She's higher than Schumer, much higher.
That's absolutely right. 47%
Yeah.
versus 39%.
Yeah.
And this is among Democrat voters. Now, if this was among the entire electorate, I could understand that. But this poll was done likely Democrat voters. So this is his own party
Yeah.
that is saying, hey, this guy he's not taking us anywhere. And to think that AOC could actually take them someplace positive, what kind of thinking are you people doing? Is there a crack pipe involved with this? Is somebody?
I don't know, but I think you're going to see a bunch of these Democrats. These guys been around for a while. There's another one just quit. The guy out of Illinois.
Dick Durbin.
And, yeah, and so you're going to see them. You know what they're going to do? They're going to be like at a Nevada, Las Vegas casino, and they're going to cash in their chips. And they acquire a lot of chips, and it wasn't by playing fair.
Yeah,
let me tell you that. So they're going to start. They're trying to get away here without getting a designation for jail.
I got to tell you, Dave, the midterms. We talk about the midterms fairly often because they're important. The midterms are starting to look better and better for the conservative side of this thing. You got some Dems, old-timey Dems, that are retiring and bailing out. And what do you have coming up in the Democrat Party to replace them? There isn't much.
No.
You look at somebody like AOC or Kamala and you say, my God, is this the best you can come up with? Surely surely you have some folks in there that was some charisma and some intelligence.
Well, you got
Please
one guy
tell me
trying to
that
break
they're in.
through, and I'm trying to figure out his name here, and that was young guy is trying to marginalize all these people that are doing well. And I forgot his name. It's the guy was involved in a school shooting, and now
You're
he's
not
a
talking.
hotshot.
You're
Huh?
talking about David
David,
Hogg.
yeah, David Hogg has suddenly got this $20 million,
Yeah,
some of which he's been known to use by DoorDash. And
David.
he is going to proxy all these other people that are in Congress. Okay,
Yeah.
he's going to do it on his own, and he's
You-
getting hell from the older guys up there.
You-
Saying,
you know,
it's none of your
this kid-
business.
This kid is the co-chair of the DNC, for Pete's sake,
Oh,
and he struck out on his own. And of course, Carville. I listened to Carville because
Yeah.
he's a lunatic and he's very.
Yeah.
He's
He'll
a
tell you
smart
what's
guy.
going on.
He has slammed David Hogg in the worst sort of way. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
I love it when the Dems are falling apart like
Well,
this.
they're
I
fighting each other
absolutely
now.
love it. So
Yeah.
Hogg is talking about primarying Democrats that are not loony enough. I mean, come on, you couldn't make this crap up, Dave.
No, I know no. When I started doing the radio show back in 2008, I thought, what happens when I run out of news? I guess I ran out of news today, and I put in a really relevant thing. There's always something to go, but generally, it's been a rough roller coaster ride for
Yeah.
almost 17 years. And you've
And-
been around for like most of it, almost all of it.
We're most of the time, Davis, especially since Trump became our president again, we've been drowning in stuff.
Yeah.
I have a hell of a time picking out what I want to talk about because there's so much stuff there.
And you know what I have? You know what I have presented for you to say today? Let me just show it to you. You see all that list of things? Oh, wait a minute! I don't have anything.
Yeah, heck of a lot of show prep
I mean,
there.
I mean, look at this. We can't shut each other up fast enough to get more stuff in. Because we know there's stuff, and you know it, and I know it, and it's fun to relate this because we kind of think the same.
Well,
that's a little weird.
I love doing this show. This allows me to vent, and
It's a lot of fun.
I need to.
I like to make it that way. I like to make it fun. I mean, I don't want it just to be, to hurt enemies and things like that. I wanted to provide some argument that can go either way and reason as to why you should do things a certain way and why you shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, we do believe in right and wrong.
Yeah.
And there's so much wrong out there. Dave, you got to poke a pin in it. You got to poke it.
And common sense, as Trump said, common sense. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you got? What is that? Why is that an issue that transgender men have to play with women and have to be given a guest star performance of their genitals in the room, in the shower room, in the locker room? What the hell? Why are people willing to die for that? It's crazy.
It's such lunacy. It amazes me that we're even talking about it because it's so very wrong. Anybody with their eyes open.
You know what? You can't ignore it. You got to say, "Hey, what's going on here?" And people in some states like Maine, they are covering for this. They're actually suing the president over this. This is what we do.
Do you really think that the average man in the street citizen in Maine buys this stuff? Of course
I don't
not.
think so.
Of course not.
They elected that governor.
So what do you got? What you got is politicians that do not represent the people that they're supposed to represent.
Well, you have to wonder, at least half of them. What woman, what girl would vote for that?
I'd like to know that.
What was so symbolic about it is when Trump signed this bill, which essentially said men, there's only two genders.
Men are men, women are women. Big
and
surprise.
we're not going to mix them up in sports. And there's all these girls, big little girls. Riley Gaines was there. I mean, it was all, and they were surrounding the president. All these women, young, old girls, they were all around him. What a significant thing that is to advertise for people to vote for Trump.
A good moment, I'll grant you.
A great moment.
I hope that people remember that come election time.
Half the population.
But, Dave, the fact that we're even talking about this has gotten so ridiculous that we're actually mentioning it. This should be so obvious to anyone that, guys, if you got a bulge in your pants, you're a man.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what drugs they give you. I don't care what they cut off or put on. Doesn't make any difference to me. You're still a guy.
I know.
So where the hell did we come up with the idea?
I know. I mean, I feel kind of stupid talking about this.
Well, it's so
Why isn't
obvious.
it so evident? Why should I have to talk about this? This is crazed. I'm not a crazy guy. Well, maybe I am a little, but not that crazy to where you got to discuss that. Oh my God!
What sane person would buy into that idea? What? How the hell did this ever become a mainstream conversation?
I know. I don't know.
This should be something that is so obvious.
God wants us here for some reason, but it sure ain't about that. I don't think.
This is a lunatic world we're living in, brother.
You got it.
I got a little quickie Pete Hegseth here.
Oh yeah, please.
They've been raising hell about the chat that he had and the leaking classified information. And Hegseth just lost his chief of staff, a guy named Joe Casper, and some top aides, Dan Caldwell, Darren Selnick, Colin Carroll. Now, these are people I hadn't heard about until they got the boot. Why'd he kick them out? Because they were leaking. DOD leaking. We also have leaks in DOJ. We have leaks out of the White House. We have leaks everywhere. And I'm so pleased that Trump's appointees are going after the leakers and saying this is no longer acceptable.
Yeah.
Things that are classified will remain classified. Good for you, boys, because this needed to happen a long time ago.
Sure.
So my hat's off to Hegseth.
But he's also going to give an interview to, I think the guy's name was Goldberg or something, that was from the Atlantic, that hates Trump, made up all sorts of stories about Russia and Trump with Hillary and lied like crazy. And Trump's going to interview the guy with the guy. How's that?
Trump's going to go after him. Yeah.
Well, okay, but they both have accepted. You got Bill Maher going to the White House saying, okay, I don't like this guy, but I had an amazing time.
Yeah.
He's not what I thought he was.
Yeah.
He had 60 things that he wrote down that Trump called him a jerk, a stupid idiot, blah, 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 blah. 60 things. He brought it to the White House. He
said, had him sign it.
Yeah, and he signed it.
He signed it.
Come on. This guy's from a different, he's a showbiz kind of guy, and you can get along with a guy like that, even if you're his enemy. Because he can talk his way out of it. He's talking to the press more often, probably, than all presidents have done in 4 years at a time.
I have never seen this kind of availability for Commander-in-Chief.
What the hell do you want? I mean, he's giving you the answers to everything, too. Hey, one of your fans, Patricia Odin Maxwell, great job again, JJ.
Thank you, Pastor Pat. I'm here to tell you, Trump, have you ever seen cabinet meetings the way he holds them?
I've never seen a cabinet meeting.
They used to be done in secret.
Showing a picture, but not them actually talking.
Yeah.
And the press is there, too.
They used to be done in secret. There was no press allowed in there. And I mean, for decades and decades and decades.
Sure.
He lets them all in, and they have a discussion. They ask him any darn thing they want. He answers.
Yeah.
We have never had a president like this.
There's never been a president like this.
How can
Never.
you hate the guy? That's the Trump.
Well, you can hate him if you listen to the mainstream media. You can hate him if that's all you listen to.
Sure.
But people are learning though that it's taken a while, that the contrast between him and Joe Biden and the Democrats was so much that maybe that was God doing that. God took him away for a while so we could learn what the opposite was for sure. And now America knows what the hell's on the other side.
Look how old I am, Dave.
I know.
I've seen an awful lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I have never.
I respect that.
Never seen anything like this. The man is writing a new chapter in the Republican Party, and the old rhino Republicans don't even recognize it anymore. I think it's a wonderful thing. This is so long overdue. And to have a president like this that is, he's willing to do an hour-and-a-half presser, even when none was scheduled.
Yeah.
And actually answers questions.
Yeah.
If you look at the other side of this coin, the Dems, they're only a teleprompter away from complete chaos. And,
and they're all saying the same words in every one of their talks. It was the Maryland father instead of the MS-13 criminal.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. It's and like every one of them says it that way.
They're all reading off the same script. You remember
the husband and father from Maryland.
You remember the word gravitas?
Yeah.
Gravitas was a word that I had never heard in my life. And about a decade ago, somebody mentioned it. And every single news outlet, they said gravitas.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it.
It's incredible.
These guys are all reading off the same script.
Why would you want to do a job like that where they're telling you everything to say? And I mean exactly what to say, not just your interpretation of it. It's exactly the words that they want, and they're all doing it at the same time.
And Donald Trump has taken that and turned it absolutely upside down.
Yeah.
I love it, Dave. I love it. This is the most excited I've gotten about a president since Ronald Reagan. And this guy's outrunning Reagan.
Oh, and not that Reagan was bad or anything, but this is a different level.
Oh,
it's one level, at least one or two levels above Reagan.
Way above. This guy is taking off like a rocket. And frankly, the mainstream folks and the rhinos, it's not that they can't keep up with him. They're not even in the same classroom with him.
Yeah, but they're in the same places with him. And I think they're beginning to change their way of asking questions. No more is it rude. Sometimes it's stupid, but it's not very rude anymore because they're there. What the hell did they do when Biden was president? For God's sakes, they sat there like a bunch of idiots.
Well, and the questions they ask him were entirely scripted.
Yeah.
And Trump is off the cuff. He doesn't care.
Yeah,
no,
he doesn't care.
The guy is brash and he can be rude. Okay, and a lot of people don't like him. I happen to respect the man because he's giving it to you straight.
That's what he says about. That's what he says about this guy Goldberg with the Atlantic. He says he can ask me whatever he wants to.
Yeah.
You know what? I won, and I won big also. And so I'm ready. Whatever he wants to ask, he can ask.
Yeah.
That's
an
attitude, baby. Okay, that's an attitude of a winner.
I thought right after the election, that the rhinos would be very much against Trump, and that the first couple of weeks they were.
Yeah.
And I think those rhinos are realizing that their electorate, the folks that put them in office, don't buy that crap. They're pro-Trump. I think we're seeing that more and more. I think the Trump derangement syndrome is going to die a quiet death because the guy he's outrunning it.
Yep. All right, my friend, I got to get going. I got the rabbi coming up very soon. I'd love to talk to you all day. You know that. I want to thank you for this lovely, heartfelt interview. John Jeffrey Bradshaw. All right, we're going to do a couple of commercials right now. Come back with the rabbi.
Your home is your castle, you don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments, that's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Rolla, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our number one goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333.
Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Honey, what are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing?
It looks like you're filling up a swimming pool.
Yep, I'm filling up a swimming pool.
In our living room?
How else am I going to watch the game and stay cool?
If your AC is on the fritz, call Hartley's Climate Control. Hartley's is the area's best in HVAC repairs, installs, and maintenance. Knowledgeable, honest, and dependable. Serving Rolla and the surrounding areas for commercial or residential needs. Hartley's Climate Control. Community born, community raised, community serving.
Call Hartley's Climate Control today at 573-368-3163.
Never be too coy to tell your friends and family about koi sushi and hibachi. Celebrate the best Chinese-Japanese restaurant in the Midwest. Call 573-426-5551 to make a reservation or order takeout. Locally owned, 1808 North Bishop, Rolla, Missouri.
We can sum up McDonald's new crispy chicken sandwich in one word. Crispy. But also juicy and tender. Okay, it's crispy, juicy, tender. All one word. But then, also pickle. Oh, and potato bun, which is two words. Okay, we can't sum up our new crispy chicken sandwich in one word, so you'll just have to try it to understand it. Order ahead on the McDonald's app at participating McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Merrill's Quarry and Asphalt, 40 years serving cities, counties, and everyday businesses with driveways for people who live and work in our little piece of heaven right smack dab in the middle of America. Call 573-578-9101 for your free estimate of rocking, rolling, paving, driveways, sealing, and striping too. That's 573-578-9101 for your free estimate.
Your home is your castle, you don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments, that's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Rolla, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our number one goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333.
Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
At your locally owned Price Chopper, our standards are high because we know yours are. See for yourself what an incredible fresh selection of grocery items we have in store. Talk to our expert meat associates about what you're looking for. They're happy to meet any special requests like custom cuts, or see our expert produce associates on how to pick out the best fruits and vegetables. Quality in the deli means fresh, full flavor, and always delicious. If you're craving fresh baked goodness, we have that too. You can expect the best selection and the best value while interacting with our friendly and knowledgeable employees. You can find what you're looking for fast and easily at the best prices at Price Chopper. Fresh savings every day. A-Car Real Estate, where experience matters. 532 million sold since 2003, the number one sales volume in Phelps County. As a client for decades, I can say they are the best in mid-Missouri. Call 573-368-7355. That's 573-368-7355 for the best real estate experience you'll ever have. Gotta reach 'em, see it right now. In Insurance going up like crazy? Daniel and Henry. Insurance is one of the largest private insurance companies in the world. Richard Boyette, 314-444-5011. He's my guy at Daniel and Henry for 10 years. Business or personal, call Richard at 314-444-5011. He's the best.
At Town & Country Bank, we've got all the perks of a national bank, like online banking, quick loan approval, and you can deposit your check from your phone. But that's not why our customers love us. They love us because we still offer hometown customer service. Stop by one of our 2 Rolla locations and let our friendly team remind you how special hometown banking can be. We're locally owned and will take the time to understand your needs. Smart, friendly solutions. Town & Country Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Ladies and gentlemen, wartime Rabbi has turned his charity to the widows of IDF soldiers cut down on their youth and their babies, providing homes and connections to other widows. Please welcome all the way from Efrat, Israel, Rabbi Moshe Rothschild. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you, Dave?
You're holding up your book. You're also an author. Tell them what your book's name is.
It's called The Secrets of the Hebrew Bible. And there's the website right there, secretsofthehebrew.org.
Great book.
Yeah.
Don't need to speak Hebrew to say it, right? To get a lot out of it. It'll show you the words. It might help you understand Hebrew a little better, right?
That's right. You don't need to know a single letter in the Hebrew alphabet to understand the book.
Well, the head of the PA, Mahmoud Abbas, tells Hamas to release the hostages. His name for them is the son of dogs. What the hell does that mean? This guy's a liar from day one, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, look, he doesn't do anything for the sake of morality or
Israel.
Or Israel. It's only for himself. Remember, he was supposed to be the head of the PA, the Palestinian Authority, for 4 years, and he's in his 16th, 17th year, maybe more of his term. They've never even had elections.
Yeah.
This is not a guy. This is a guy who wrote his PhD thesis and about the Holocaust not happening. Yeah. So I don't think he's calling for the release of hostages because he suddenly has turned a corner in his life.
Yeah.
There's definitely some motivation here, ulterior motivation for him. So it is kind of funny calling them the sons of dogs.
Now, what just happened in Syria? Briefly explain how Syria was taken over by this other group.
Okay, well, Syria has been going through a civil war for a very long time, and it wasn't one group fighting in this civil war. There were so many of them. It got very complicated. But
were they killing each other, or were they unified?
They were killing each other initially, for the sake of being the one to lead Syria.
Yeah,
they were unified in the sense that they wanted to get rid of Bashar al-Assad, who was the president of Syria. But there was also the other side of that, is that they were killing each other, positioning themselves as the overthrower of Bashar al-Assad. Ultimately, what happens, Assad flees, and his name is escaping me right now. His group takes over. They had been sympathetic with Al-Qaeda, this group. And now they are the masters of Syria. And they had initially said, they're very happy, to change direction, to live in peace, and we'll all get together around the campfire, sing Kumbaya. But I guess
they started killing their enemies within, so to speak.
Yeah. And
But
so,
here's the other thing that just came out like yesterday or the day before that. They want to join the Abraham Accords.
yeah.
Do you believe that?
So, yeah, it's this is a region that you never know who's telling the truth. That's the problem. And these guys could turn around and use the Abraham Accords simply as a vehicle, as a means in their long stated journey to destroy Israel. So who knows if they're serious or not? But it definitely is interesting. You were correct in identifying that Lebanon, on the other hand, which could, if they ever had a stable government, Israel could have peace with Lebanon, and we once did. The problem is, of course, that the Hezbollah is too strong.
Well, right now the Lebanese MP, I don't know what the hell that is, but Hezbollah tells Lebanon they must give up their weapons. He wants to normalize the relationship with Israel, and sounds like they don't want any more war. I think they've been beaten.
Yeah. Well, an MP is a member of parliament, and look, the truth is, I mean, on a statistical basis, I think in these countries, you do have a lot of people. This is different than the Palestinians. You do have people that do want to live in peace. And there was an era where Lebanon and Israel, our border was porous. It was called the Good Fence, and you could go back and forth between countries. But all that changed when the terrorists came and took it over.
Yeah.
It's true also in this region where I live, in the Arab towns around us, they wanted to live with us in peace.
Yeah.
The problem is that during the Intifada, the jihadis came into the villages and they take it over. And they come with guns, even though they're a minority, and they threaten and they kill and they're violent, and people get kowtowed into this. So,
are you saying that there is a different group of Muslims that Jews can get along with? Do they not abide by?
Even
if you're not going to turn into a jihadi kind of Muslim, we're going to kill you, or are there exceptions to that?
Yeah, look, there are, believe it or not, because it doesn't seem like it, but there are Muslims that would be willing to live in peace with Israel. And I
think that's
you have the UAE, you have countries that are part of the Abraham Accords that have demonstrated that they are capable of living in peace with Israel. The problem is that these countries like Syria are sometimes, they are so unstable within their populations that it doesn't look like we could live in peace with them because no one's in charge there. The UAE, Morocco, Sudan, these countries, Israel has normalized with them. Possibly Saudi Arabia, coming up. Who knows?
Right now in Israel, the hostages are being compared to Holocaust survivors, the hostages that are being let out now, and they've suffered tremendously and have to be scared every moment they're alive and awake, don't they? So they're going to be like the Holocaust survivors, and you've had to deal with situations like that.
Yeah, look, I mean, the way they look, the lack of food, the starvation. But one very moving thing I saw was a Holocaust survivor speaking to some of the hostages that let out. And he said to them, look, it was far worse for us. We were there for years. You can recover. You can rebuild your life. We did it. You guys can do it also. And, it doesn't mean your life's over. So I thought that was very inspiring.
Well, yeah, it's very necessary too at this point. So, we got the deal going on with Harvard being sued by the Trump administration.
Yes,
and they're suing them back, and they have guys who run the college who are Jewish, and he's complaining that this is a civil rights, First Amendment right. You're free to say whatever you want to. That's crap. What if they went around with loudspeakers calling them blacks names that used to go way back? I mean, would that be legal?
Right.
Why would they do
Yeah,
that?
Jews have a history of bending over backwards to show how fair we are and so on. The president of Harvard, it's a Jewish guy. You know, this is it is. You're right. If the simple litmus test is to substitute the word black every time you hear the word Jew or Israel, and see how would the universities react.
My God, they wouldn't hear of it. How dare you?
Yeah, of course.
They get rid of you faster than, well, unless you were a big contributor.
Right. Or, substitute the word woman for Israeli or Jew. You'd see how fast the feminist movements would be. It's,
transgender, even. Oh my God!
Yeah.
What did I say? You know that kind of stuff. I was just having this conversation with JJ. That what are we talking about here? Why are we talking about transgenders?
Yeah.
You know, and it's because they're in the certain states and certain people want them allowed in sports with men, and they're getting hurt.
I forgot, it might have been in England. There was the finals of some tennis, or I don't know what match it was. It was two transgender women against each other. It was two men basically facing off again. At least that's fair.
Well, yeah, but you can't do it. You can't do it even then, because with women there,
right?
This is not. They don't have the same structures. They don't have the. I mean, they're going to. One gal was in a volleyball tournament where the guy on the other team was a man pretending to be a woman, and he hit the ball so hard you could see. I mean, there was a film of this. And my God, she's lucky she got up. She's like 3 years later, she still can't function correctly.
Oh my God,
it's ridiculous. So the deal now is that Yale now is also becoming a school that's praising from the river to the sea, which you and I know is kill every Jew in Israel.
Right. Correct. Again, they said from the Pacific to the Atlantic, get rid of all the black people. You can imagine that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? So let's see what else I got. All right, you got any rabbi rants or scoops? What's our friend Ron Dermer doing?
Yeah, he hasn't been too much in the news, but he's part of the negotiating committee, for the hostages. But I haven't seen him too much in the news, which I don't know if that's probably a good thing.
Egypt has a new deal. Everybody's got a new deal,
Yeah.
It's not worth even discussing, I don't think.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
All right, other than Dave Weinbaum show, where can people buy your book and contribute?
They can go to secretsofthehebrewbible.org, get yourself a copy. Trust me, you won't regret it. Or you can go to our website, israelalliance.org, facebook.com/Israel Alliance. We'd love to hear from all you guys.
One of the reasons I believe you're in Israel is I hear your Jersey neighborhood was so tough, your boomerangs never came back. Ladies and gentlemen, Rabbi Moshe Rothschild. Hi to the family. And we're going to see you when you come out.
Yes, I am. I will be at May 18th of Pastor Pat's City of Life and Light.
Okay.
And I'm going to come to you, Dave. I'll let you know the dates. Maybe I think I'm getting there the night before. The 17th, I'll be with my son Ari, but I'll be in touch with you.
Please do. Please. All right. Thank you, Rabbi.
All right.
Shabbat shalom, my friend.
Shabbat shalom. Take care, everyone.
Right. Thanks. All right. Well, we gotta, if you want to call the show, by the way, 573-578-2700. I almost lost my.
Wow.
Almost does not mean I did it. Okay. All righty. So call the show. Do we have any things up there?
Let's see if we have any new comments on the board. Let's see. Got a couple.
Okay. Patricia Oden Maxwell. This is number 2. Sounding good, looking good. Good team. I wonder if she was a cheerleader. Andrea Schrum. Good morning from Northeast Missouri. Good morning, Andrea and family. Thanks again, Rabbi Moshe. Good info from Patricia Oden Maxwell, the official pastor to the Dave Weinbaum Show. You know, you can't believe how many Christians we have here. That I believe. Obviously, I'm in a small town. I'm one of the few Jewish people here with my family, and so it's to have a show that's actually popular. You know, your base is basically Christian. And, I respect Christians. I don't have the same religious beliefs, although the religions are based on, and even Christians know that, it's based on the Hebrew Bible.
And we also know that Jesus was a Jew. I mean,
well, yeah.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah. Wait a minute, Patricia Oden Maxwell. The meeting with Rabbi Moshe will be at the City of Light and Life at 3:00 May 18th. Sort of like when I met him the first time, sometime in maybe 2009, I think it was, after I'd started the radio show, and she said, Dave, I want you to come to my church. And I didn't hardly know your mom very well. I knew your father, who was a great refrigerator, freezer kind of guy. He would fix the freezer and apparently steal ice cream cones for you.
Oh, and chicken nuggets and hamburgers and fry. Yeah.
Yo, that too?
All kinds of stuff. Oh, yeah.
No wonder my food cost was so high.
Oh, yeah. Especially at the Sullivan store. They love me over there.
So, oh, my God.
Yeah, Dad can fix pretty much any kind of machine. So,
yeah, he's probably fixing hamburgers for you on the grill, too.
He may have been. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, you don't know nothing. He knows nothing, ladies and gentlemen. But your mom is telling me, says on the phone, she says, hey, why don't you come to my church this Sunday? I've got a really interesting rabbi from Israel. And I said, well, let me think about it. And she calls me back in a couple minutes and says, I know what you think. I said, okay, what do I think? I think you think that we're trying to convert you with a Jew for Jesus rabbi. I said, well, it did come through my mind because it's happened before. I have a lot of people tell me, you're wrong. Go for, and it's people that I know, friends and stuff. Maybe even a wife. No, but she didn't do that. She just took an oath to do that, but that's not going to happen, right? Hi there, honey. Okay, I'm losing at this. I thought we were getting along, but this could be a problem. Anyways, so I said, okay, I'll come down there. Yes, I did think that, and I get a lot of offers for that, and I try to avoid it because it usually ends up badly. There's usually an argument in the end because I'm not changing. It's just not, I says, you show me in the Bible where God rescinded the first of the 10 commandments, which you will not worship any God but me. And you can try to convince me, well, Jesus isn't God or Mary isn't God, but it's the trilogy. Okay, so that's not where I'm coming from. And if you want to come from there, I'm fine with that. And the rabbi understands that. And I'll tell you what, he came in, he was late about 10 minutes. Already I knew that's a good thing. A Jew is late 10 minutes. Oy vey. No problem. So he starts, I look and he comes in, he's wearing all his zitzah, he's wearing a hat, which is signified of acknowledging God above you. And so he's dressed like a rabbi. He looks like a rabbi. And first thing he does is he starts insulting me. And naturally, I insult him back. After 7 insults each, I knew he was real. He was a real rabbi. That's what Jews do. We kibitz with each other. And if you know me, that's what I do. I mean, I make jokes out of nothing. And usually the jokes are worth nothing, but what the hell?
It was interesting for us, too, because, Rabbi has now been a friend of ours for, 15 years, I guess, now at this point. But that first meeting, there are, especially when they were Orthodox Jew, there are certain rules, like, they don't really hug and all that. If he's going to give another man a handshake, he needs to offer it first. Like, there's just certain rules that they normally follow. And so we had a whole list of stuff because we're like, all right, we're going to try to make sure and honor what he follows. So we're trying to remember and all that. And so he comes in that first time. And so we just kind of greet him. He puts his hand out. So we go ahead and shake, that kind of thing like that. And then this lady, I don't remember who she was. I think she was somebody who came in from the community. Comes running up and just gives him a big old hug. And he goes, well, okay.
Well, he is a very religious Jew. And I'm sure he might have been taking some liberties there. With the situation. Me, I don't understand the rules of being a really good Jew. I just know that I am one, and I know there are rules which I do respect. Others I don't do as well, and I try to keep my my limitations to what I think God wants us to do, and I think that's what everybody wants, whether you're a Jew or a Christian or even a Muslim. I think the interpretation of Islam has gone a long way to destruct some of the people, because it's a death call. It's a call to kill anyone who's not like me. Well, I don't believe that's what God has ordered. All right. So that's where that went. But this was the first time he was ever in a church. One of the first times he's ever spent any time with Christians. How's that? I didn't know that when I was there. I did tell him when we first sat down, and I was sitting right behind him. I says, "Don't worry, Rabbi, I got your back." And I was just kidding. I think he thought I was serious.
And the cool thing is, I think now he feels not only comfortable with us, but confident in the fact that if on one of these visits, if somebody came in trying to do harm, all of us would be there to help deal with the situation quickly.
Sure.
So.
All right, let's do some funny stuff. Let's do Seinfeld. Let's do Carlin. Let's do Reagan. Okay. I hope you guys like this. I love this stuff.
I jumped on the bus. I told the driver, I got a tow here, buddy. Step on it. Holy cow. Yeah. Then, all of a sudden, this guy pulls out a gun. Well, I knew any delay's going to cost her pinky toe. So I got out of the seat and I started walking towards him. He says, where do you think you're going, Cracker Jack? I says, well, I got a little prize for you, buddy. Knocked him out cold. How could you do that? Yeah, then everybody is screaming because the driver, he's passed out because of all the commotion. The bus is out of control. So I grab him by the collar. I take him out of the seat. I get behind the wheel. Now I'm driving the bus.
You're Batman.
Yeah, I am Batman. Then the mugger, he comes to and he starts choking me. So I'm fighting him off with one hand, and I kept driving the bus with the other, Then I managed to open up the door, and I kicked him out the door, with my foot, at the next stop.
You kept making all the stops?
Well, people kept ringing the bell.
In football, the object is for the quarterback, otherwise known as the field general, to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy, in spite of the blitz, even if he has to use the shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack which punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line. In baseball, the object is to go home. and to be safe. I hope I'll be safe at home. Safe at home.
I remember the story of the fella here a while ago who was running for Congress as a Republican. He stopped by a farm to do some campaigning, and when the farmer heard he was a Republican, his jaw dropped and he said, "Wait right here." He said, "While I get Ma. She's never seen a Republican before." So he got Ma, and the candidate looked around for a podium to give his speech from. The only thing he could find was a pile of that stuff that Bess Truman took 35 years trying to get Harry to call fertilizer. So he got up on the mound, and when they came back, he gave his speech. End of it, the farmer says, "That's the first time I've ever heard a Republican speech." Candidate said, "That's the first time I've ever given a Republican speech from a Democratic platform."
Well, I hope you like these jokes. I mean, I hope you like these jokes. I think they're great, and I think they're repeatable because not everybody hears it. Even the ones that you've already heard, I've heard them more than most everybody because not everybody's listening to me every part of the day. Although I think you should, But I get it. Okay, and I wanted to talk to you about the Pope is dead, and the Pope I guess his funeral is going to be this Saturday, and God bless him. He's in God's hands now, and I'm putting up my Pope voting, which I don't get a vote. I don't know why. Well, because I'm Jewish, I guess. But very few get a vote, an actual vote for the next Pope. But I kind of like Cardinal Dolan out of New York. The guy is up with it. He's a New Yorker. He's a loyal Catholic. I got a couple of loyal Catholics on this show. I didn't even know it, and I've got coming up. I've got Chris Adamo,
but he's not Catholic.
Huh?
He's not Catholic.
Yes, he is. He's not.
No, that's got brought up on the show before. He's not Catholic,
And he doesn't live in Montana.
But he did, and he's a Sicilian. How can you be a Sicilian and not be a Catholic?
I think
it's an abomination. It's an abomination, I say.
Maybe he was in his younger days, but he's made it clear that he's not Catholic anymore.
He won't do that in Italy, I bet, ever.
If he ever goes there.
Well, Italy.
Sicily,
I mean, it's a whole thing about the Italians. They were the Romans. That was Rome.
Now I know Mark McCluskey is one of the other trans we have on the show.
All right, there you go.
Yep.
Of course, he's an Irishman. He's not a.
True.
He's Irish.
True.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, or Scottish or something like that. But I like Dolan. I think he'd be very, very good for the world. Let's put it that way, and especially America. Andrea Shrum, Dave wanted to remind everyone that next Thursday, May 1st, is the National Day of Prayer, and also the Midwest March for Life. In Jefferson City. I think they are having a prayer service at 1:00 at the Capitol. So go and show up to that. This is great. I love this stuff. Anyone else? Okay, you want to call the show, 573-578-2700.
You can also reach us on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble with any comments or messages.
Al Gore compares Donald Trump to Hitler. What a news story that is. And there's a clip out there that has Trump in it with Hillary Clinton, and I guess it's about 1914 or 1814. No, let's go up a few centuries. 2014. and it's Hillary saying that, someday Donald Trump would make a great president. And you hear her say it, so it had to happen. I'm pretty sure they didn't fix it. So
I've seen that one too. It's just that when she made that comment, I think it was back from like 1994. Trump was still a Democrat.
Okay,
then.
1994.
Trump was still a Democrat at that point, and she didn't bank on being the person to have to go against Donald Trump, but that's what happened back in 2016.
And from that, he went to be the worst person that was ever born anywhere, anytime. The difference between Pelosi and Hakeem Hakimi's is she had clout and he doesn't, apparently. She had it all structured to where you would. This is how she do. Can you do the Nancy Pelosi thing about how she operated? Frankenstein, Nancy Frankenstein. This is her way of doing things. This is Nancy Pelosi.
You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, you call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this. So they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. It's a tactic.
This is Nancy Pelosi. Let's talk about this for a second or two. This is what the Democrats have always done. Now, I don't know that it's that organized that way in Republicans. I suspect that it's nowhere near that kind of statism kind of crap where they're actually going to repeat everything that's told to them. This is why the Democrats are having a problem, I believe, a huge problem because they're still doing that. The problem is that everyone's onto it and everybody's sick of it. Everybody's sick of that kind of governance. And if you don't agree with me, 573-578-2700, just so you know, you can't be swearing on stuff. Anyways, and I know I kind of broke that rule with Maher, but it's on all the podcasts. What am I going to do? I'm going to fight it. The dirty words and stuff like that. It's not going to happen often, but
luckily without radio, we don't have to worry about the FCC coming down on us because
true.
This is the podcast world, so a little different.
Yeah, podcast world was horrible enough for a long time because you got Facebook that was marginalizing us. You got Twitter. You got all of them were doing that. They were all trying to control us. And now you got Laura Loomer, who was kicked out basically of all media. She's an advisor to President Trump. How did that happen? Okay. She went from the Dave Weinbaum show to being an advisor for Donald J. Trump. And he's actually listening and doing things she's saying he ought to do. She got 10 guys fired for anti-Semitism. Okay. Or gals, some of each. But isn't that interesting? Okay, so let's play a couple more clips. That'll be 3 and 4, right? Yep. All righty.
I told him I thought parts of his plan for Gaza were wacky, but that I had supported him in the idea that Gaza could be Dubai instead of hell. I told him he was wrong when he tweeted the night before that I was critical of all things Trump. Not true. Check the tapes. Moving Israel's embassy to Jerusalem, loved it. The border did need to be controlled. I'm glad the cops are getting their morale back. DEI had gone too far. Biological men shouldn't be playing women's sports. Europe should pay for their defense. And of course, it makes sense that Arab countries should take in Arab refugees, like the million Syrians who wound up in Germany when Saudi Arabia took none. He said to me, "You're right, they took none." I said, "Well, you should remind your boyfriend in Saudi Arabia that the next time you see him." He laughed. I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump. That's just how it went down. Make of it what you will. Me, I feel it's emblematic of why the Democrats are so unpopular these days. He was even okay when I checked him on the orangutan lawsuit. He was. No, he said to Dana White, You know, Bill said my father was an orangutan, and I really love my father. And I said, well, Mr. President, I did that because I didn't like what you were doing regarding Obama's birth origins. I thought that was low. No anger, just a little smile, as if to say, yeah, I get it. The most surreal part of the whole night was when I got home. I flew back right after the dinner, and I'm in bed watching 60 Minutes from the night before. And there's Trump in one of their stories, standing at a podium in a room that looked to me like one of the rooms and places we'd just been in. And he's ranting, disgusting, you're a terrible person. And I'm like, who's that guy? What happened to Glinda the Good Witch? And why can't we get the guy I met to be the public guy? And I'm not saying it's our responsibility to do that. It's not. I'm just reporting exactly what I saw over 2.5 hours. I went into the mine, and that's what's down there.
Your home is your castle. You don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments. That's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Rolla, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our #1 goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333.
Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
With warmer temperatures right around the corner and allergies ramping up, now's the time to get those AC units serviced. At Hartley's, we pride ourselves in offering outstanding service with fast response times. With proper maintenance, you can make those hot days be a lot cooler and remove those pesky allergens that always seem to find their way into your home. Call us today so you can be living a much cooler and healthier life. Hartley's, community born, community raised, community serving.
Call Hartley's Climate Control today at 573-368-3163.
Never be too coy to tell your friends and family about koi sushi and hibachi. Celebrate the best Chinese-Japanese restaurant in the Midwest. Call 573-426-5551 to make a reservation or order takeout. Locally owned, 1808 North Bishop, Rolla, Missouri.
We can sum up McDonald's new crispy chicken sandwich in one word. Crispy, but also juicy and tender. Okay, it's crispy, juicy, tender. All one word? But then, also pickle. Oh, and potato bun, which is 2 words. Okay, we can't sum up our new crispy chicken sandwich in one word, so you'll just have to try it to understand it. Order ahead on the McDonald's app at participating McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Merrill's Quarry and Asphalt, 40 years serving cities, counties, and everyday businesses with driveways for people who live and work in our little piece of heaven right smack dab in the middle of America. Call 573-578-9101 for your free estimate of rocking, rolling, paving, driveways, sealing, and striping too. That's 573-578-9101 for your free estimate.
Your home is your castle. You don't need unwanted hassle. Don't let those creatures move in to stay. Let us protect your investments. That's what we're all about. Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Plank is locally owned and family operated right here in Rolla, a Google preferred business. Our customer service and your satisfaction is our #1 goal. So call Plank today at 368-3333.
Plank Termite and Pest Control will save the day.
Busy schedule? Let your locally owned Price Chopper help you save time with online shopping. It's easy. Sign up to tcmarkets.com or download our mobile app in the App Store or Google Play. Create an account and browse through the categories and choose the items you need. When you place your order, your personal shopper will get all of the items you've selected, taking the same care you would and following your notes. We offer free curbside pickup, so you don't even have to get out of your car. Start your online order today and no online shopping fee for a limited time. Go to tcmarkets.com or download our mobile app to get started. Price Chopper. Fresher savings every day. A-Car Real Estate, where experience matters. 532 million sold since 2003, the number one sales volume in Phelps County. As a client for decades, I can say they are the best in mid-Missouri. Call 573-368-7355. That's 573-368-7355 for the best real estate experience you'll ever have.
Gotta reach 'em, see it right now.
Insurance going up like crazy? Daniel and Henry Insurance is one of the largest private insurance companies in the world. Richard Boyette, 314-444-5011. He's my guy at Daniel and Henry for 10 years. Business or personal, call Richard at 314-444-5011. He's the best.
At Town & Country Bank, we are committed to providing exceptional service to our customers. We do more than just provide loans for our community. We help make dreams become reality. Whether it's a new home, farm, business, or a new car, we would love the opportunity to help. Stop by one of our 2 Rolla locations and let our friendly lending team remind you how special hometown banking can be. Smart, friendly solutions. Town & Country Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Hi, we're back. We're back. Great show. We got Chris Adamo coming up, and then we got the great man. We call him around here Bullet Willis. And it's funny, I learned a lot of stuff from this guy. He actually is fixing my golf cart. Not that I asked him to do it, but he wants to do it. Okay, he doesn't want me to pay him or anything like that. And he's going to be really interesting. He worked for the government for years. He was in the fire prevention program. He was in forestry for the state of Missouri, and he's one of those old guys that was a great athlete at the University of Kansas, and boy, does he got stories to tell. He's a great author. And then after him, we've got the space alien guy. We got Richard Lockwood, and he's got a little admission to make, but he's a great guy, and and I know he's a Catholic, so at least we're not we don't discriminate. I mean, who would I get if I discriminated, against? I wouldn't get anybody. So, yes, you may walk back here, honey. Okay. I'm not, yeah, you're fine.
Not to interrupt you. Because that would be awful.
Yes, I know. You're stepping on me now. That's not right. She's got these big, look at this. I got to hold these up.
Don't mess with my strawberries.
Ooh, that's not what you said last night. Look at that. She's just sitting there eating them, squirting the juice on me while I'm trying to interview people. The rabbi didn't want to see this. Suddenly I'm thinking, like, what's she doing? There's wet stuff on my arm. See, I'm not lying about this. There's proof. Oh, this is so cute. They're really good-looking strawberries.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, see, she comes here with
tasty too.
Her breakfast. I guess this is your breakfast, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I spend a lot of time in the mornings on your breakfast.
Yeah.
But then I don't have any time for my own.
Oh, that's not true.
Sure it is.
You're lying there for an hour and a half. An hour and a half after I leave. Okay. Probably saying, oh, finally he's gone.
These are not sound blocking, are they?
Oh, God. If they are, I'm taking them home. Okay. Anyways, we're back. And we've got Liz Warren, Pocahontas. She's being beat up by this left journalist and admits that she was wrong about what she said about Biden when he was still there. That, oh, yes, he was sharp as a tack, really good on his feet. Yeah. All these guys said the same thing. All the news people said the same thing. He is in shape. He is cognitive. He's a sharp guy, no matter what you say. And unbelievable. Now they got nothing to say because it's proven that this guy didn't have it, and that he was. You have to wonder if anything he did, he knew what he was doing, or if he got someone else to sign a pardon, or 7 or 10.
Or hundreds,
or
however
hundreds.
many it was.
Yeah.
Which brings up, I mean, the discussion has come up and it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Whether you believe, which I do believe the 2020 election was stolen, but according to what they say, Joe Biden won. Okay, well, if he really did win, which again, I don't think he did, but the people elected him. So if somebody else is in there signing for him, they're not the elected official that are supposed to be doing that. That we have a huge issue right there. Big time. And then the first lady's leading cabinet meetings. What? And Melania did that, they would be all over it.
Well, of course. That's why everyone's seeing this now. The clothes. We saw this ugly man. He was ugly enough with clothes, but now all his clothes are gone. And we know that he was lied for. Oh yeah, he's fully dressed today, and he never was. He was an empty shoe. All right. Anyways, we got coming up. We've got Chris Adamo. Newsom is suing Trump. He you know what? But all of a sudden, he is turning over. He's turning over an illegal alien who was, I believe, he was found now living with the judge that exonerated him, but he's still been convicted by another judge, or he might have been convicted by that same judge. And now this guy is Newsom is saying he's going to turn him over to ICE. Pete Buttigieg is suddenly talking about, he's talking tough. He's got a beard, and he's, remember, that's the guy that was out on maternity.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Pete Buttigieg and tough in the same. Some things don't belong together.
Well, he said the word, the S word, well, we ain't going to do that S anymore. Yeah, I mean, I'm really sounding in a deeper voice and, like he's a tough guy.
Wow.
I mean, they don't know what they absolutely are lost. And they kept digging themselves a bigger hole. This thing going down to El Salvador for this guy who was a known MS-13 criminal killer. He was caught striking people. He was caught fighting his wife, fighting with his wife. She made 2 complaints against him. She had some bodily harm with her. And also he was caught trafficking either women, children, or both. And he claimed he was taking people to work. Yeah, he was taking these young kids and things to do sex work. Oh my God. And they're going down sacrificing for him. And he's the one that we feel sorry for, not people that are killed, that they're given or sold fentanyl and all this other crap. Well, Trump has a right to do this. They don't have a right. They didn't have a right to come in this country illegally. I think you were making this point, weren't you?
Well, the whole argument is that they didn't come into this country illegally, which is essentially due process. You come in correctly, you don't come in illegally. So now on the way back out, they're like, oh, hey, I deserve due process.
Yeah, bullshit.
That's for American citizens. You came in illegally, going right back over because you don't get the reward of due process.
And it's in the Constitution.
When you're not in here legally.
1798. that they have a right to expel people who aren't citizens, and that's the executive branch. The executive branch, okay? Well, looky who we've got coming on that screen. Oh boy, his hair is ruffled, and he's going to be good, though. Tell you what, we'll get to his page pretty quickly. Okay, this is a proud Sicilian. I thought he was a Catholic, but he's not. I don't understand how that works. I thought if you're a Catholic, you automatically were. I mean, if you were Sicilian, you automatically were Catholic. Yeah, wow is right. I'm learning stuff. Relocated to Wyoming to Missouri in his quest to find where I live. Please welcome author, Marxist expert, and friend, Chris Adamo. And we're holding up his book.
Well, I want you to know that I have 2 jars of gefilte fish in the refrigerator.
What does that mean?
I thought only people with names like Weinbaum would have gefilte fish. If we're going to go with all the racial jokes,
racial.
Yeah, if you're Sicilian, you have to be
Rachel
Catholic.
never meant a word. I swear, honey, Rachel never meant anything to me. Rachel was nothing to me. See, now you're yeah. And how's Liz, by the way?
Liz, yeah, don't get me started on Liz. We have a new Liz Cheney in the Republican Party. I'll tell you about that in a little bit.
Who's that?
Of all people, it's Rand Paul.
Oh,
and
really?
he's absolutely having a meltdown over the tariffs, and I'm going to tell people what he's doing. I know a lot of people. There's actually if ever there was a political cult following, it was Ron Paul, his dad, and then Rand Paul. Once Ron Paul,
yeah, well,
retired.
they were both very different about certain subjects, and that was one of them.
But they were both, I'm going to be the radical. I'm going to do things differently. Rand Paul, I'm going to tell you what's happening. I might make a lot of my former friends mad at me, but here's what's happening with Rand Paul. He sees his best opportunity for the White House as 2028. He wants to be at the head of the class. And so what he's got to do at this point is kind of separate himself from the pack. So rather than going after the Democrats, which is what a good patriot would be doing at this point, because the Democrats are just committing every treasonous act they can, rather than doing that, he's going to come out against President Trump over tariffs. Now, what we don't need at this point, President Trump's tariffs strategy needs a unified America to work. We tell the rest of the world, we're not putting up with this. You're going to lose our economic advantages if you keep playing these dirty games against us.
Sure.
It'll work at that point. So what does every leftist Democrat do? They come out and they undermine the tariff situation. They undermine President Trump, which gives the Chinese and the other enemies, gives them hope that maybe he'll cave on it at some point. So now they're going to dig in their heels. Who's doing that right along with the Democrats? Rand Paul. And I'm telling you, I'm absolutely through with him as far as I'm concerned. His chances of ever getting a vote for me have just gone to zero because I don't trust him anymore.
All right, you heard it on this show. My respected friend over there, whatever he wants to say about me or whatever I love to say about him, he's now put his foot down. And sometimes you have to put your foot down to get a leg up, by the way. And he has said that Rand Paul is bad news.
He's selling us out.
Selling us out. All right.
And the thing to understand is if they sell you out once, they'll do it again. If he's harming our standing against the rest of the world with his anti-tariff rants that he's doing. And what he's doing is he's putting his own political future ahead of the rest of America.
Okay.
And what we need to do at this time, I don't have to agree with everything President Trump ever says or does. I don't have to be just totally mindlessly devoted to him. But when he's neck to neck in deep against the Democrats, and I come against him at that point, I'm helping the Democrats.
Yeah.
I'm helping the Chinese.
Well,
and our side, there's a time to stand. There's certain issues you don't compromise. Tariffs is not one of them. Yeah. If we don't play purist according to the Rand Pauls on tariffs, because the Chinese and everybody else are playing dirty.
Well, what's his excuse for that? I mean, does he want this country?
This just isn't
have
being done properly. This is
another $4 trillion that we can't account for. I mean, what's
he has some sort of point of view that makes him more just pure as the wind-driven snow. That you can't compromise this. There's some issues that I will not compromise on. There is no excuse under any circumstance to kill an unborn baby.
Yeah.
I won't budge from that. But tariffs, one of those things we can sit back and say, okay, let's stand together. Let's show a united America. Let's win this battle and move on, because President Trump's agenda, his end game, is not to have tariffs everywhere. It's to get the other side to take their tariffs down. So instead of rolling over for them like we've been doing,
it's an equalization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trade.
And we haven't done that because we're scared of. We don't want a trade war.
Benefit from it too. All right.
Yeah, everybody would benefit.
Yeah, he's making and he's a deal maker. He's going to make sure there's a good deal for them.
Oh yeah, right, exactly. But they've made it a rotten deal for us. And you remember during the Obama years, this whole trade war thing had forced us to the point where manufacturing in America was pretty much dead. And Obama's going, well, you can't bring it back. You can't wave a magic wand, right? Yeah. And so President Trump got in there and immediately started fighting for some sort of equitable trade between us and the other nations. And we started gaining. And during his whole first term, we're gaining economically. And of course, then they pulled the little COVID scam. But we were doing well. We were doing better. And the economy was booming. And then when Biden ostensibly gets into the White House, then all of a sudden they roll all that stuff back. And now we're at a disadvantage to everybody.
Yeah.
And President Trump is doing whatever he can to re-level the playing field. And here comes Rand Paul on the side of the Democrats and the Chinese. And so, yeah, this is a little bit like imagine yourself on a battlefield, right, on D-Day, and somebody says, well, I'm a constitutional purist and I believe in the Bill of Rights. So we need to, before you shoot at that German who's got his machine gun pointed at you, before you shoot back at him, you need to read him his Miranda rights. Yeah. No, we don't play it that way. We're in a war. And sometimes you have to fight hard in a war.
The tariff thing. We're going to come up with that. We were searching for it right now. Do you have it? Yeah, I want you to play. I want to play this about tariffs.
Well, this one's not about tariffs. It's about, this is the old one where she tells him that he sounds presidential. Is the one that we have.
Okay, play it. Okay. Yeah, that's one.
Yep.
By the way, this is the same person that said this to Trump nearly 40 years ago. Go ahead, Rob.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me. And I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not. But I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't. But I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings and we're not.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose.
That's over 40 years ago. About 43 years ago, he says, when he gave that interview, and he's talking about how people are taking advantage. Other countries are taking advantage, and that calls for tariffs. So back then, he even had that concept 43 years ago.
What the real concept was not, and I know you're right when you say it that way. His whole concept was actually he didn't want tariffs. He wanted to fight to win. He was going to get into the presidential race to win. He doesn't do these things just to grandstand. And right. Again, all of these things that we're in. Do you really want to just shoot people? No, but you know what? Those people are attacking me. They're dropping bombs on me. I'm going to have to shoot back at them or surrender. Those are my options. And you get in these situations. Can you imagine somebody on December 8th, 1941 saying, well, this isn't fair because we're bigger than the Japanese. And so if we fight back with them, we're going to hurt them. And so we're just going to ignore Pearl Harbor. I mean, this is the way this thinking goes right now.
I know. You're right. I agree with that. Are you happy now? I said you're right.
I'm a little taken aback. I'm shocked here. So
yeah, I bet you are.
Let me tell you about a really good pizza place you need to go to whenever you're out in Wyoming.
Get a bill out and send them a bill, for God's sakes. Constitution was written for Americans only. Is that right? I want you to
That's
comment.
absolutely right.
So
And,
why are they saying that these people from these judges that aren't even they're not even in the Constitution are saying that we're not giving them due process?
It's this simple. You got my book handy there? You can hold it up. It's this simple.
Hold it up.
Pay attention, people. It starts here. This is an Alinsky tactic. It's in the Constitution. You think Alinsky ever cared about the Constitution, the rule of law, or America? You think leftists really do? The same people who were happy to see Americans thrown in jail for several years with no trial over the whole January 6th ruckus.
Bingo.
These same people all of a sudden care about the Constitution for illegal aliens who have murdered Americans. This is the Democrat Party of today. And this is why, just to throw back just for a second, this is why people like Rand Paul making a ruckus over tariffs are so despicable, because they're giving credence to this whole movement when they do that. This is how Democrats operate. They'll take any subject. They don't care about anybody. They don't care about the Constitution. They never did. They trash it at every opportunity. But if they think they can invoke it for leverage, they'll do it with absolutely no shame.
And they'll tell you, and they'll use the Constitution to say you're being unconstitutional.
Oh yeah, they're the pious patriots who care about the Constitution.
You're not giving people due process.
Right.
Well, they don't get due process according to the Constitution, the law of 1798. People who are here illegally get no sympathy, or should not get sympathy, from the Supreme Court. Now,
the biggest mistake our side makes is to ever take any leftist argument on any issue seriously, and take it on its face and start trying to debate it on its face, instead of saying, okay, what are they really up to? Here's what they're really up to. Put all that Constitution sanctimony aside. What they're really up to is, we need people in America who will help us steal elections. That's what this is really about.
Of course. Ballots for illegal aliens, that's AOC. Prisons to polls in CNN town hall. This is what they want. This is what the whole purpose of letting all these people in illegally.
Absolutely.
Change the cities, change the towns to have more Democrats,
more Democrat voters. What does it say about a party that their political future is based on cheating and an illegal invasion of hostile foreigners? What does it say about that political party?
What it says is they want to be like Russia. They want to be like some other country like that, where they can get their way.
They want their power.
Right. And they want their power. Other than that, it's great to live there, isn't it?
Now let's consider this in the face of the other big propaganda blitz we've seen for the last few weeks. Is the idea that they're having these rallies, and if you watch real carefully, I always joke about this, because it's like these crowds of these massive crowds of dozens have been gathering for Bernie and AOC. Okay, that when you get down to what the Democrat Party really has to offer people, Bernie, AOC, and you remember that DNC vice chairman, David Hogg?
Oh yeah.
This is the future that they have to bank on if they're actually trying to promote an agenda. And it's like, this is embarrassing. So what does that say? That says these people have every intention of figuring out other ways to win elections, which means ballot fraud. It means bringing in the illegal aliens. It means doing everything they can except actually presenting America with a good option that people might actually want to support.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is from Laura Loomer. Now, what do you think of her? All of a sudden, she's skyrocketed from being chained to the Twitter office in New York City, which I had a discussion with her about that. I said, what are you going to do? Somebody approaches you and wants to hurt you. You're stuck, and she kind of ignored that. And now she's suddenly a high level, almost like in the administration, kind of giving advice to President Trump, and he's following it. Okay, he's following it. She has commented on the murdered 56 Christians at a church in Nigeria. The Dems welcome these jihadist savages in our own city as well. So what do you think of that?
Well, when we go back to the things I've said earlier today, everything that we come back to is the fact that if our side thinks that we can continue fighting these people while we color inside the lines, we're lost, because they're fighting dirty. They're street fighting, and we're trying to use Marcus of Queensberry rules, and we're going to, because we want to prove that we're better people than them. If we do this, that's idiocy. They love boxing us in that way. They've won for years. And so what you end up having is people like Donald Trump who come out and say, you know what, that's not working. And if I'm going to go in there, like you just that clip we just heard of him, if I'm going to go in there, here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go in to win, because that's how I do things. Okay. And she's the same way. It's like, wow, she sounds so radical. No, she doesn't sound so radical. The rest of you sound so stinking insipid. And you the GOP establishment I'm referring to here, you business as usual, color inside the lines. Let's all try to play nice, because maybe if we play nice, they won't keep saying we're such awful people, instead of saying, you know, they're going to say that anyway. And so I'm not going to try and impress the enemy that I'm such a nice guy. I'm going to go in there and fight to win. And if the enemy screams really loud, all that is proof that I'm winning. This is what Laura Loomer is doing.
You have a lot more invested in that than I do. But I do come to a point to where if the argument doesn't work and you're going to attack me and I think you're wrong, I'll go after you.
I have no doubt that if somebody shows up at your McDonald's and they're disorderly and they're yelling they want a free hamburger, that you're going to do your level best to try and work things out. Okay?
Trust me.
But if somebody shows up and they're trying to rob the place, now I don't know how good of a shot you are. You never lived in Wyoming, so I don't necessarily know if you can hit the broadside of a barn. But my guess is
every time I make a birdie, as my next guest will attest to.
But I'm going to guess that you're not going to just stand there and let them. And you're not going to say, what, I've never done this before. I try to be nice. So this guy's pointing a gun at people and robbing people. I'm going to keep trying to be nice, because I don't want him to think I'm a bad guy.
I've gone armed many times.
You're going to take whatever action is necessary to win. Yeah. And this is where the GOP establishment, I'm talking about the old guard, the guys who've been there. This is where they're dropping the ball. And frankly, many of them are happy to be dropping the ball, because the Republican, the Rhino insiders, their intention is to do one thing, and it's despicable, and yet you can see it. Their intention is to totally defang Donald Trump, totally pull the wind out of his sails, the whole Trump movement, get back to business as usual. Because when they were all the minority, when Mitch McConnell was the minority leader, he was happy. He could complain about what the Democrats were doing and send out fundraising letters telling everybody he complained, and he could feather his nest with that. And he could do that day in and day out, never have to accomplish a thing, because, hey, we're the minority. We can't get it done. And that was fine with him. Now, what happened to the country? Oh, that's their problem. Yeah, okay. Right. When you have people in there that don't want to fight because they like the status quo, because it benefits them personally, those people need to go. And I'm saying this to America. I'm saying this right now. It's right now. It's not even May yet. It's April of 2025. We've got until the summer of 2026, when we have the Republican primaries for these congressional seats. We've got to start now getting our people established to run against those rhinos. You see a rhino in your district who's playing along with the status quo, you need to primary him next year.
I agree.
And we've got to be doing that, so we get fighters in there. We get Laura Loomers in there. We get Dave Weinbaums in there, so we can actually turn things around.
And Chris Adamo, who will sell them all pizzas. And as we're talking, the Godfather shows up, Christopher Rossini.
Not only has he got a good last name, he's got a good first name.
Well, if you listen, it gets even better. I would like a signed copy of your book. Do I just order directly to the information on Mr. Weinbaum's page? Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you. Two Italian guys. I bet you he's a Catholic.
The signed copy thing is a little bit harder, because what we'd have to do is I have to order a book, sign it, and send it to him. It's kind of a big ordeal. I would tell you, Christopher, get one, get it read, grasp the concepts in it, and at that point, you can start doing what needs to be done.
Yeah, get it to me and I'll sign it.
Yeah, get it to Dave Weinbaum and he'll sign it. He forges things. He
Watch yourself. Watch yourself. He's watching himself right there. I know a lot of lawyers. Okay.
That's right. With a name like Weinbaum, I'm sure you know a lot of lawyers.
Well, I
Hey,
don't
if
know
I'm
how
supposed to
that
be
happened,
Catholic because I'm
actually.
a Sicilian, then
I do have some tendencies to think like lawyers. I don't know why.
I won't even go there. I can make Jewish
I've
lawyer
had
jokes all
experience.
day. If you want to make Sicilian jokes, I can make Jewish lawyer jokes.
Go ahead. I don't care. I had a Jewish lawyer in St. Louis, and he didn't want to take the case because it meant coming, back and forth and stuff like that. So who does he give me? He gives me a guy who's who at one time was going to be the third in command in Germany to Adolf Hitler.
Oh my gosh!
Okay, and I made friends with this guy, and he wasn't that way. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't like that. He had his uncle lived in Germany, and his name was Fritz Todt. Now that's you don't know who that is. He made the Autobahn, and he was the main weapons supporter of Nazi Germany.
Wow.
He was second in command till Hitler had him killed. He says,
Really?
well, he really didn't do anything to the Jews. And I says, you know what? You're full of what. And he says, yeah, maybe I am. Yeah.
Oh, I could tell you the denial there is unfortunately, not to totally take a rabbit trail here, but the denial afterwards was unbelievable. We had a lady in our town who lived like right outside of Dachau, and
Yeah.
this is back in Wyoming. She swore up and down that no, you never smelled the burning
right.
bodies. You never smell. And yeah, the denial is unbelievable. But that's what people do when they can't face the reality. It's unfortunate. Speaking of denial and not facing reality, so here we go back to President Trump wanting to Pete Hegseth. They're wanting to ban trans military people. Why? Because if we have to get in a war, if Americans have to shed blood in a war to defend the country, they need to be able to do it in the best possible position to win that war and shed as little blood as possible, right? That's what the military is supposed to be about. Your treasonous leftist counterculture, and I'm talking about the Biden-Obama crowd,
right?
They turned the military into this social experiment because, well, you signed up, you signed an oath, now you're all guinea pigs. We're going to do this stuff, and you don't have a choice. And so now we're going to make you live amongst these trans military people, and so you have to go in, and there's some woman or some bloated woman sitting at a desk, and you have to call her sir, or you get court-martialed. Okay, President Trump, Pete Hegseth, they say we want these people out. What do we have? We have some liberal judge somewhere who says they're actually in charge of military policy, and they're going to undermine that.
Well,
we better learn how to fight this war on the home front against those leftist judges.
With my next guest too, pretty soon Trump's going to have to shed himself of all these suits by enforcing his right as the president of the United States to act as the head of the country.
Absolutely right.
As is signified by the Constitution. I gotta go.
I'm going to give you something else.
All right, you're going to give me something else. Give me.
Since you brought it up, this works perfectly with something that hit me real hard this week, and I hope the right people are paying attention. Do you remember the term the Nuremberg defense?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to kill all those people. I was just doing my job.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's no defense. Those people were guilty of those war crimes anyway. Here's the thing: if you obey a leftist judge and it causes harm to America, but you obeyed that leftist judge because you were just doing your job, you're still guilty. You can't use that Nuremberg defense, and that's why we need to be defying these leftist judges. Well, I'm not going to use that leftist judge as cover.
They're doing that, and I think they're setting them all up, quite frankly.
I hope you're right.
I really believe that.
Because the time has come.
Processes, and pretty soon the hammer is going to come down.
It has to, because if it doesn't, the country's finished. I cannot use that Nuremberg defense to say I had to obey that judge. I had to give that poor little kid hormones to cause him to start puberty blockers. Would I have to help poison this kid because that judge says so? No, I'm not going to use that Nuremberg defense.
The pizza's already done. I got to go to the next guest. Okay.
Really? Already?
Other than Dave Weinbaum's show, where can people find you and buy your book?
Okay, it's still on Amazon. It still is something that will help you understand who leftists are, how they operate, and best of all, how to avoid their snares so you can defeat them in these contests. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
You know, I took a bath in the shower business.
So you get me off of here, and yet you have time for one of these really bad jokes?
Look at him. Look at him. He couldn't wait. See, that time it was so quick he didn't get a chance. Well, what? No applause.
So who's
No, this
that
was a
guest back
joke
there?
right
I think I
here.
recognize him.
Okay, thanks a lot. That's all right. No, you don't have to do anything. All right, thank you so much, Chris.
I don't get to hear the joke?
Give him crickets. That is the joke. I took a bath in the shower business. I couldn't even make a second to get into it all.
It was sort of a joke.
Sort of a joke. All right, see, he's going to tear into me too. Next. I feel
Bye-bye.
like a
God bless. Keep it up.
Next. Yeah, and go get that little tuft off your hair, will you? For God's sakes. It's bothering me. All right. Well, my next guest is here. He's raring to go. How's your knee?
It's still pretty sore.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll play.
All right.
I may not be great, but I'll play.
This guy used to beat. He used to play with and beat people like. Who was the guy that played with you in high school?
Well, that was Tom Watson.
Tom Watson.
Yeah.
Pretty good golfer, I'd say. And did you ever beat him?
No, we played in the championship for high school in Missouri. Yeah. He represented Pembroke Country Day School in Kansas City, and I played for Chillicothe. He shot 75 and I shot 77.
Wow, gee.
So, yeah,
that's pretty good though. I mean,
what can I say?
Well, okay.
But he was a freshman. I was a senior. So.
Let me give you a brief bio, which is presented to me by one Bob Willis. Bob Willis writes nature books. His Trout Adventure series led readers around the world in search of adventure, travel, and beautiful places. These beautiful places were captured in photos that were part of the series. His photography highlights the adventures of Dog. This book is the first in a series of nature books for children. The Ozarks of Missouri is where Willis raises horses and has daily adventures with all of the pets, animals, and strange things that often seem to happen. The strange things that have to do with women?
That's way beyond me.
Enough.
You're going to have to fill to fill in the blanks on that.
Willis has been writing for over 2 decades. It was inducted into Who's Who in America in 2022 as a writer and author. The themes that drive the stories are beauty, adventure, and love of animals. A love of animals and the spirit of adventure created all the stories about Dog. Dog is a friend, and as it turns out, a best friend. There is nothing more satisfying than writing about a good friend. And so it is that with the adventures of Dog, of course, he's never going to write a book about me. But
well,
that's all right.
It's on the list, but unfortunately, it's a really long list.
On the list. I mean? Okay, we're still on the show. Yeah, we're still on the show. All right. Okay, so now I have warranted a certain amount of things that we can do here. And
just real quickly, let me say that The Last Buffalo in Kansas is another book that will come out on May 13th. That you can pre-order that book now on Amazon. That book will be available in all the bookstores.
Now that's your one major history book.
That's a history, about 100 years of American history from 1850 to 1950, and it's about a family's journey through history during those periods of
whose
time.
family would that be?
Well, that would be my family, and it follows my great-grandfather's immigration to the United States in 1853. He fought in the Civil War.
He was born in 1833.
He was born in...
What was he named?
He was born in 1837. His name was George Washington Willis.
He must have been really popular.
He was born in England, and he was teased unmercifully. And that's why he left.
What,
No,
did you ever find out why they named him after the hero of America?
All of his brothers and sisters, and including him, asked his dad, "Why did you name me that?" And he would just smile and would never tell him.
And what was your grandfather's?
My grandfather's name is Ulysses Simpson Grant Willis, and he was an innovator that he had 2 degrees, university degrees in 1911, which is
Was that George's son?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it was.
So you had 2 guys named one from
both were presidents, named after presidents.
The first president of the United States, and the other a major general in the war, the major general that got victory for us in America in the Civil War.
Yeah, and George was part of the Iowa 2nd Cavalry who assisted Ulysses Simpson Grant in a variety of battles.
Yeah.
They provided the cavalry support.
Okay.
It's a really interesting book. Comes out the 13th. The other book that you read the author's bio on is Adventures of Dog. It will come out the end of May or early June. And
these are great for kids.
Yes.
Great for kids. I know my grandchildren have some of them, and they're reading.
Yeah, I gave you a couple of early copies of some of those books, and I wrote the Adventures of Dog and all the children's books to give kids something different than what they're getting. As I began to look for publishers in the children's book group, what I found was a lot of them are woke. They encourage LGBT books. They encourage political subjects. And these books are fun about animals that kids can enjoy.
Sure.
And that's basically why I wrote them.
We're in a world with Disney.
Yeah, well, Disney.
How's Wicked doing, by the way? How's that movie? Anyone know? No idea. I want crickets.
You mean Snow White?
Crickets.
Yeah, Snow White.
Snow White. Yeah,
Snow White is not doing well.
Wicked did wonderful.
Oh, Wicked did wonderful? Okay.
You know,
was that woke too?
Let me talk a little bit about Disney, because I grew up in North Missouri, and Walt Disney was born and grew up 40 miles from where I grew up. He grew up in Marceline, Missouri, and I grew up in Chillicothe. And the legacy that he left Marceline and Missouri was unbelievable. He created a children's empire that was totally geared towards entertaining children. Today's Disney is not about that.
Yeah.
And it's really sad.
Well, how come they let it go like that?
Well,
the people that had that he still has people that have somewhat control.
Well,
of the company
at this point in time. The only heir that's left is his granddaughter, and she supports the management at this point.
All right. Well, is that Isrig or
Iser?
Iser, yeah.
He's still there, and for whatever the reason is, well, it's an entertainment problem. They've pretty well gone woke with everything they're producing at this point in time. Anything that's produced from about 2020 on is just really not worth watching.
But they're seeing that in the sales, and they're seeing it
in
the stock price.
Sure they are.
So what's the reaction? I mean, you know, when you screw up, you try. You know, if you're Bud Light or whatever that was, you try to fix it, don't you?
Well, that's a good question. Let's just talk about Bud Light for a minute.
Yeah.
Budweiser was sold to a Swedish firm, and I think it's InBev is the name of the group. They moved the headquarters of Budweiser from St. Louis to New York. They staffed all the senior management positions with foreigners. That's why you see this substantial change in their advertising program.
Yeah.
Is because they're using people that don't understand the United States and certainly don't understand the Budweiser brand and where they get all their support, which is the Midwest. And that the woke advertisement that they went out with killed Bud Light, and it will never recover.
Yeah. What did it do for them in their own native countries, in Sweden, in Europe?
Makes no difference to them in their own native countries.
So they're fine.
Yeah,
they're fine with it.
Sure. It's their bottom line here in the United States. And
they didn't know that. They were clueless.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. They thought that they could change the philosophy of the consumers, and they were wrong.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we need to deal with Europe and the tariffs.
Yeah.
And the way that they're dealing with the United States.
Okay, so how's Trump doing in that regard? It seems to me like he's on the verge of several ones being signed.
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit
signed
about
down. They got to take some time to get him to make all these deals. He's got 230 countries.
Well, let's
he's
just
got to deal with.
Let's talk about the tariffs and the philosophy and what the overall goal is going to be.
Okay.
We've instituted a 25% tariff on almost all of Europe. There's a baseline of a 10% tariff. That is in response to the way they treat our companies.
Yeah.
And the way they treat our companies it varies a little bit in the EU from country to country, but generally it's about a 22 to 29% increase in price when you try to do business with Europe from the United States. That doesn't necessarily come in tariff. It comes in value-added taxes and regulations. That's what Trump is trying to address in Europe with his 25%.
You don't see American cars in Germany as much as you see German cars in America.
Yeah, I think we sold one car in Germany last year.
Yeah.
And so
they kicked that schmuck out.
Yeah, he was deported.
Yeah, okay.
But the situation we're dealing with in automobiles is the fact that we charge 2.5% tariff on every car that comes in from every country at this point until Trump said that's not right because you're charging 25 to 30% on all our cars, and you don't let any of our cars in China. And there's also a substantial tariff in Japan and South Korea. So he said that's one of the places we're going to start. We're going to tariff all foreign cars until there's equality in what you're allowing into your country.
He seems pretty close to making a deal in Japan.
That's correct.
And in South Korea, which is, he's competing now with.
That's also correct.
With China. He says, China says we're not having any talks. They're talking to other countries, but Trump says, yes, we're talking.
Well, let's talk a little bit about China and what it looks like the administration is trying to do.
Yeah.
One of the things, we put 145% tariff on China.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to make it almost impossible for them to sell goods in the United States. We run a $500 billion,
which will make them pretty much broke in a very short period of time.
It's certainly going to adversely affect their economy.
Yeah.
There's no question about it because we run a $500 billion trade deficit with China. So the problem that we're dealing with in terms of China is not just in trade, but it's in terms of their global aspirations.
Yeah.
And they use trade to accomplish that, as well as an aid program, particularly in South America and to some extent in Africa. And what President Trump is trying to do is to decouple not just our economy, but the world economy from Chinese production.
Sure.
And what he's trying to do is one of the things he's trying to do is to gain support for a North American response to Chinese input. And the way he's doing that is he's trying to gain support from Mexico and from Canada. And Canada's a problem because they're a very protective country in terms of trade. He's trying to gain support from those two countries to have a North American response to China in terms of trade. And if that were to occur, it's going to make it much more difficult for China to have influence. Now, China does not have a great deal of influence in Canada at this point, but they do in Mexico. And that's going to be a part of the problem he's trying to deal with. The other part of the problem is what China calls their Globe and Road program. They have it's actually an aid program. And that aid program is primarily being used in Africa and South America. And that is another program. One of the things that China is trying to do, they're part of an organization, and the acronym is BICRS. Okay. And that group of countries, it's Brazil, India, Russia, China, and South Africa. they're trying to change what the global currency is from the dollar to the Chinese yuan.
We don't hear much about that.
You don't. But
why not?
Well, it's because reporters don't report it. That's the deal.
Okay.
But President Trump has told all those countries that if you really pursue this, we're going to tariff you at least 100%.
Yeah. What about the Panama Canal? Because that's a China thing too, because that affects us a great deal. It affects the world a great deal, and now we're seemingly getting them kicked out.
Well, the problem with the Panama Canal is that we have a treaty with Panama. Jimmy Carter's regime gave the Panama Canal
$1
back to Panama for $1.
$1.
We still have a treaty with Panama that has certain requirements.
Yeah.
And what Panama has done is they have entered into a contract with a large Chinese firm to manage the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
That is in violation of our agreement with Panama in terms of what the treaty says. So we are going to take back the Panama Canal because they violated the treaty.
I think they're really pissed off about that.
Well, sure they are. But they can't do anything about it. They made the decision to violate the treaty.
Well, that could have something to do with how they're acting right now.
Well,
pissed off.
Well, but I don't know if you remember, but we invaded Panama once when Noriega was there, and we pretty well destroyed the country.
Yeah.
Because he was a terrorist and he was taking over the canal.
Okay.
Panama's no match for the United States, and they know that. But we have a treaty, and I'm sure that treaty will lead us to a different place in Panama, as it will in Greenland. We actually have a treaty with Denmark about Greenland, and that treaty was initiated in the Second World War. That said we will provide protection for Greenland.
Yeah.
And to do that, we have several bases on Greenland. I think what will happen to Greenland, I don't know that we'll have it as a territory, but certainly that treaty will expand and our military presence in Greenland.
I think it will. But here's
expand.
Another one that just came in the news within days. Cuba is broke. Cuba.
Been broke for a while.
But we're talking about severe, that people can't eat or anything.
Yeah.
We're talking about a real severe one. So what are your thoughts on Cuba? That could be in play too.
Well, Cuba has been a Russian protectorate for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Sure.
But Russia,
you're only 2 years older than I am.
Well, but you didn't pay attention in those years.
That's true. I've come a long way.
Yeah, you have.
There you go.
I agree. Okay, but during the Cuban Missile Crisis, what happened was Russia was going to send ballistic missiles to Cuba, and they
did send it.
Well, they got close.
They got blockaded.
They got close.
Yeah.
But what happened was Kennedy sent ships to intercept them, and they turned around and went back. Well, ever since we've had an embargo on Cuba. We've had an embargo on goods. We've had an embargo on finance. We've had an embargo on everything.
Cigars.
Well, you can go to Canada and get Cuban cigars.
I know that.
I know that too. Okay.
I got guys get them for me.
But the situation has gotten worse as things have regressed because they can't get the support they need anymore from Russia because Russia basically collapsed when the Soviet Union went away. So they don't have the support from Russia economically anymore. So they're in dire straits.
Yeah.
And so what's the solution? Well, eventually they're going to have to probably denounce communism and come around to the point.
The window of opportunity doesn't open itself.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Absolutely
that's an opportunity right now, not only for us, but for Cuba.
It is. Cuba can have a much better life if they denounce communism and come back as a free democracy.
Get the mafia there to take over the casinos.
Yeah.
Make them happy too.
But they're in a position in terms of where they're located to really develop a
they're
thriving
90 miles off of Miami.
Really develop a thriving
Absolutely.
economy. But they're going to have to change what they are. That's the problem.
Well, they at one time, back around the early 60s, they were Well, they were a much better country.
They were
friendly wise.
They were a
United
dictatorship
States.
under Batista,
Yeah, right,
but they at least had some human rights. They don't as a communist country.
They don't have nothing right now, and they have nothing because of that.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I mean that would be a very popular thing. There's so many things that Trump could
well,
do.
and that what a great destination for tourists.
I don't know if he has any.
Really could be.
I don't know if he has enough time. That's why I say Trump 28. I'm serious. I mean, all the judges they're keeping him busy.
I think
with
if I were Trump, I wouldn't run in 28 because he can have a greater influence in the Trump organization around the world than he probably can as a
president. If he gets one of the guys that he wants in there, well, maybe a son. Maybe Don Jr. and or the vice president right now.
Yeah, I think there's several candidates for 28. I would say his son. I would say J.D. Vance. I'd also say Elon Musk is a potential.
I don't know if he can do that. Can he?
Well, probably not because he's a South African and he is
I wonder
about that. He immigrated to the United States, and you probably you can't.
All right. Do we have any questions relating to this? I know Shrum is in there. All right. Christopher Rosani. Yes, I am a Catholic. I was very fortunate to grow up on the St. Louis, the Hill community, private Catholic church, high school education by Jesuit brothers in a all-boy high school, raised a Catholic Italian and Sicilian family. What do you think? I think forget about it. I wasn't raised with respect. You are absolutely wrong. Oh yeah, did I piss this guy off? Almost. I need to run away from here. Almost became a priest since I was an altar boy. I do know about family traditions and ceremonies in the church. I was educated in Roman Catholic tradition. I don't know. Was that a threat?
No, I thought it was a really good comment.
I'm shaking a little bit.
Exactly.
All right. Hey, send me some pasta, will you? For goodness sakes. All right. And what about this Andrea Shrum?
And get some.
Okay, Andrea Shrum in a recent post of Give Him 15, Dutch Sheets writes, judges have forgotten who they are. Unelected shields against government overreach, not legislative swords that can impose policies. Perhaps Trump needs to examine that bust of old hickory Andrew Jackson in the Oval Office and recall his likely apocryphal, I don't know what that is, response to Justice John Marshall's ruling in Worcester versus Georgia. John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it. Okay, there you go.
Well, I was going to talk about judges, and maybe this would be a good chance.
Well, I mean, I gotta recognize the audience a little bit here.
I know, but she's right.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's good. Those are both good comments.
Yeah, absolutely. But
especially my paisan. I love you, my man. Oh God, I'm sucking up again.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about judges because that was one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about. Lawfare is alive and well.
Yeah.
Okay. Democrats used it when Trump was out of office to persecute him. Now they're using it to stop his agenda or delay his agenda.
What, are you afraid you're going to mess up your hair?
Yeah, I can't mess up my hair. Okay. Well,
I feel so bad.
Yeah, you don't have a problem.
Okay. That's right. That's why I shaved it. It was getting in my eyes. It was getting down my chest. It was terrible. It was all over my back.
Getting back to the issue.
Yes, please.
Of judges. What the Democrats and all the liberals are doing to halt the agenda is using judges that are biased against the administration. And most of those, in fact, all of them at this point in time, are district judges.
Yeah.
When the Constitution was written, it didn't say there were going to be district judges.
Exactly.
That whole group of judges was created by Congress. And in fact, all of the various districts where these judges are located were created by Congress. One of the things that has never been determined by court law or by regulation is whether district judges have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions. Most probably they do not.
I think it doesn't, because they have a law that would be in the Constitution, 1798, where they can take illegal citizens out of the country and send them back wherever they want to.
Yeah, but
that's the executive branch does that.
But that's not addressing the issue of what the judicial system has.
Well, it sort of puts them out of business, doesn't it?
Well, what it does, that particular law, the Terrorist Act of 1897, said that the president can deport
1798.
Yeah, 1798. Deport terrorists.
Yeah.
Without judicial review. That's what it says.
And I don't say that to correct you. I say it to put another vast 100 years label on that.
You slammed me down. I got it.
No, I didn't want to do that. I hate when I do that, because then you're not going to tell me the next time I screw up on the golf course.
Well,
and that will happen.
Hey, I've been around a long time, and I've gotten a lot of criticism over the years, so I don't really give it much thought anymore.
Okay.
But back to what the judges can and can't do. The problem we have today is nobody has curtailed their ability to issue nationwide injunctions, which they obviously don't have.
Yeah.
It's never been identified. The problem is the Supreme Court is acquiesced on this and not taking any cases that would make one final decision associated with that particular issue. I am pretty apprehensive about the Supreme Court at this point in time.
I'm not, because they're not going to get it in the Constitution.
Well,
you need a constitutional change, and that's going to take 60% or 67%, 2/3 of Congress. It's not going to happen.
Well, 2/3 of the Senate, basically.
2/3 of the Senate. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and so the problem you're dealing with is you have a bunch of district judges that have been developed by Congress, whose power to issue nationwide injunctions has never been decided by anyone that is doing it without direction.
Well, you're talking about a specific political party, because I don't think the Republicans have done it yet, although they're getting into it, because they're nailing at least one of these prosecutors from a judge in a case. Her name is Letitia James.
Yeah.
Yes.
AG of New York.
That's right. So they got her on a
fraud charges,
yep. And now they got her lawyer sending stuff out that they're blaming Trump for this, for lawfare.
Yeah.
Yeah. How dare you do that?
Well,
so ridiculous.
The one thing Trump is doing is, number one, he's
what is he doing?
He's calling out and identifying the lawyers that have initiated lawfare.
Yes.
And he's specifically calling out law firms that have been involved in it. That helps start the process to defeat what's going on, lawfare. The problem we've got now is that if we defeat lawfare, we're going to have to deal with the judges some way. That's a much more difficult case.
Which judges?
All of them. All of the district court judges.
Fire them. They've done it before.
There's 1,500 of them.
I don't care. Fire them.
No,
they're all fired.
You can't fire them.
Why not?
It's a lifetime appointment.
From who?
From Congress, the Senate.
Congress? No, but it's not from. It's not from the Supreme Court. Every guy that goes into office gets to fire everybody except for people in the Supreme Court.
Not in the judiciary. They can't be fired. Okay. The only way you can get rid of them is to impeach them. Otherwise,
I don't think so.
No, that's what the law says.
The law doesn't. They don't have a law for that in the Constitution.
Yes, they do.
Where is it in the Constitution?
The law says that the only way you can eliminate an executive is through impeachment. It also says the judiciary through impeachment. It was designed to deal with the president and the Supreme Court. it has passed down to the secretaries and the district judges.
I'm not sure that thing is related to those judges.
It is.
We need a legal answer. Anybody got it? Rick Camino, he don't got it. He just says, "Good morning, hi, good morning, Rick Camino." What's the matter with you?
But the problem, there is a solution.
It does say federal judges can only be removed through impeachment by the House of Representatives and conviction by the Senate.
It's just like the president.
Really?
It's the only way. So there is another way. There is another way to eliminate them.
How?
Through Congress. Congress created the districts.
Yeah.
Congress can eliminate the districts.
Okay.
Okay. So if Congress were to take up a bill and sign it into law that said we're going to cut the number of judges down from 1,000 or from 1,500 to 1,000, they have the authority to do that.
Okay. Well,
okay. But that is
that's pretty good. Thank you.
Probably the simplest way. And
I thought it was. They don't have a vessel that'll get them there, and I've been listening to Mark Levin and others about it.
Yeah.
So,
well,
we'll see.
Impeachment. The process of impeachment is almost impossible because it takes it takes 60% of the Senate,
right?
A simple majority in the House. You can always get
and
that.
it is in the president too. You know.
Yeah. Well, the solution to that is let's go ahead and get a 60% majority in the Senate.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We need.
That's why
we need
that's
seven.
Why
We need 7 more senators.
That's why I say Trump 28.
We need 7 more senators to have that kind of clout.
And so it's closed off for a president, and I'm sure he doesn't really want to do it. I'm sure he'd rather have somebody carry it on what he's done. But if he so wanted it, how did Roosevelt get around doing it? And then I guess
Roosevelt was in an era before they passed.
He was in his fourth.
That was before they passed a law that limited the president's tour to 2 terms.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a law. Now, could you amend that law? Yeah, you actually could.
Okay.
But going to take 60% of the Senate to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. Anyways, all right. Let's talk about something else here.
Well, you want to talk about foreign affairs a little bit?
Sure. Talk about Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah,
absolutely,
Iran, Syria.
Let's talk about what's going on right now with Gaza. Okay.
Yeah.
Israel has reinitiated the war, basically, and the fighting. And they did it because Hamas.
What do you mean they reinitiated? When did they stop?
There was a ceasefire.
There was a ceasefire.
There was a ceasefire, and then
why did they do
Hamas
that?
violated the ceasefire.
All right, so that's why they How did they kick out? How did Hamas do that?
Well, the big thing was they fired 4 rockets into Israel.
Okay.
That initiated.
So they were in a ceasefire, and Hamas shot at Israel.
Yes.
Okay.
So Israel responded.
Yeah.
And now Israel's taken over a third of Gaza, and they said that they're going to maintain a presence in that area. I think the problem that in dealing with this situation is that Hamas cannot continue in Gaza. And they're a terrorist organization, and they're going to fight Israel forever.
Their own people want them out.
Yes, their demonstrations are occurring now in Gaza.
Too bad they
occurred.
elected them in 2005, and they never let go of it. And they were all celebrating when they killed all those Jews on October the 7th, 2023. They're all in the streets, and they were hitting dead Jews.
Yes,
including women.
Well,
and trucks,
and so
I don't have a lot of mercy for that either.
Well, but the problem you have worldwide is that there's almost 3 billion Muslims worldwide.
Yes, I know.
And in terms of Israel, it's a country.
I didn't realize it was that much. But
yeah,
okay, it's a lot.
It's a country of 9 million people in Israel, and so the problem that you face on a nationwide basis is the Palestinians have a lot of support in terms of the number of people that are going to provide them aid. Israel is limited in the support, and it's basically the United States.
Yeah.
And there's a good reason for that.
There's another thing.
Yeah.
And, I know this is a political conversation, but God is a big, you have to see what he's done in this war in particular. There's been more things happen that you wouldn't think that could have happened, that only God could have done that.
Well, and
it has to do with the attitude of the Israelis. When they finally got the message that you got to stop this and you got to do it yourself, I'll help you where I can. And that seems to me what the message was, because they kept on doing the same thing for 20 years. They kept on the ceasefire 18 times, 19 times, and then finally they got hit.
Well, let's go back and look at how Gaza and the other area in Israel, were actually created.
Yeah.
Okay. When Israel was formed as a country, there was a lot of displaced Israelis and a lot of displaced Palestinians. And because when they set the boundaries, there were people in the wrong place, basically.
Talking about the Balfour 1913 plan?
Well, yeah. And this was before the United Nations, but when Israel was formed in 1947, the United Nations decided that there would be 2 immigration camps within the country. One of them was Gaza, and the other one was what is it, the Golan Heights or whatever?
Yeah.
And when they made that decision, the rest of the United Nations decided that those places need to be a Palestinian state. Okay. That was not supported worldwide. The United States never supported it.
Right. But
other countries did. And so for the last 80 years, Israel has been dealing with these 2 areas.
Uh-huh.
And
well, you're missing a few wars in there, like the war of 1948.
Yeah, over the last 20.
The war of
I'm just dealing with the problem
of 1967.
I'm just dealing with the problem
1972. But there were changes in property.
But that doesn't address the issue of Gaza. Okay, Gaza has always existed as a refugee camp. Okay, when Hezbollah took it over.
What is that for?
Go ahead.
My wife started following me.
Yeah.
Hey, can we hold on for a minute?
She likes you, yeah.
Your Band-Aid's coming off.
Okay, whatever.
Well, okay. So when Hezbollah took over Gaza in 2005, it
wasn't Hezbollah, it was Hamas.
Excuse me, Hamas. Hezbollah is out
Lebanon.
Out of Lebanon.
Right.
That's another issue, but I don't think we're going to have time to talk about it. When Hamas took over, they took over with the intent to destroy Israel. You can't leave Hamas in Gaza. Either Hamas has got to leave or Gaza has got to be destroyed.
All right, I got my next guest on. It's 11:33.
Yeah, we got to go.
And it's been very interesting. I haven't looked at it at the board, but there he is. And he's looking mad. Wait, I better put my Trump hat on now. Hold on. Okay. All right, one more thing for you, Mr. Bullitt. I did visit Jack in a hospital.
Yes.
And he was dead asleep not dead asleep. I shouldn't say that.
Bad words.
Bad word. But he was asleep, and I didn't want to bother him.
Yeah.
So I waited for a couple minutes, and he was still snoring in bed. So I went to the front counter, and I said, "Look, I went to the trans place where Jack is, and I bought him these 3 balls because I know what can happen to trans. Is that I wanted to give him a couple of spare balls and one that he can keep." Okay, so that's what I did with him. So, and they didn't laugh when it was. Thank you for laughing. Now you're going to have to do it. Hit it, Bob. Thank you so much for being on the Dave Weinbaum Show. We'll have you back. Buy his books. All right.
Hey, thanks.
Applaud him.
See you all later.
Thank you. See you Tuesday. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, now I have my patient, hopefully patient, next guy. You're welcome to stay if you want to. If you got nothing else to do.
I'm actually going to go see Jack.
All right, go see Jack and make sure you got the extra balls. Make sure you got the joke.
I'm not sure anybody got that joke, but we'll see.
Come on, it was a great joke. I made it up yesterday. It's real life experience.
Yeah.
My next guest, he's a mystery expert on space aliens, puzzled by books written in the late 1800s about who? Bear and Trump. Please welcome, all the way from I can't tell you, Richard C. Lockwood. How are you, Richard?
Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. So tell me the story now of how you adopted the Lockwood name.
Okay, we'll get that right out.
Yeah.
My book that I wrote was so controversial that my wife said, listen, they're going to burn down our house.
Who? What book?
The Ballad of Donald J. Trump.
Really?
Oh,
that's right. You're living in a place that's like a lot of liberals.
Yeah, it's state of Illinois.
Yeah. All right.
And anyway, so I did a lot of research on Trump, and I came across Ingersoll Lockwood.
Yeah.
And the man just fascinated me because he wrote books about Little Baron Trump and his dog Bulger. And we kind of ran with it from there. But one of these days I'm going to come on and drop my anonymity.
Okay.
Okay, so
I really don't know what this guy's name is. All right. So
yeah, I wanted to tell you something before we got going.
Go ahead.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yeah.
I was listening to your last guest. He was elected president 4 times.
Right.
32, 36, 1940, and 1944.
Yeah, and then he died.
Yeah, and so in order to change that, Congress has to propose an amendment with 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate.
Oh.
And in order to change that. And there's one other way.
Yeah.
A constitutional convention is called by 2/3 of the state legislatures.
Well, you need 2/3 vote. So you're saying is that law extinguishing the more than 2 presidents is not inclined to be true.
No. As a matter of fact, we got a little tired of Franklin V.
Yeah.
I mean, from 32 all the way to 44. You know.
Yeah. Right.
And we didn't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
It was almost dictatorial.
But has it been voted out legally?
It has not been voted out. No.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, that reverses what Bob said. I don't know who's right. We'll have to have a wrestling match here or something.
So only after completing the entire process that I told you about.
Okay.
Could that 22nd amendment be repealed? So, and yes, there is a possibility that Trump could serve another. Here's a couple ways.
Yeah.
One is that the Supreme Court, if they grew a set of you know what's, could say, hey, look,
balls.
2020 was stolen.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a Trump term.
That's right.
So now we owe you one.
Bingo.
Okay. There's one. There's
All
one
right.
way.
Well, I wonder if they have to be cognizant of this, and they have to be working on it. And I don't know that he's going to want to do it, but it seems like if he's going to get all this stuff done and have a really major effect, it seems almost impossible to do it if he has to leave office sooner than necessary to fix all these things.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Well, here's another possible.
But we're not saying that we want him elected without legally elected. We're saying we want him to have another shot at it. That's all.
Yeah, because it was actually taken from him.
Exactly. Yeah, good point.
Anyway, and another possible way is declaring a state of emergency, where you don't change a president during a state of emergency.
Yeah, well,
that's another thing. But anyway, I know that you're interested in UFOs, and I am too.
Yeah.
And you're interested in religion, and I am too.
Okay.
So today I'm going to try to combine.
So you're gonna become Jewish? What is that?
I don't know.
I said, so today you're going to become Jewish, and suddenly music came out.
Wow.
Whoa.
I don't
what the hell's going on here?
Okay. So today I'm going to try to combine the two of religion and UFOs. Huh?
Right. And you're Italian too, right?
Hey, I'm a paisan.
Hey, forget about it. Forget about it. You're talking to a Jew. We're about the same.
How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Doing fine. Talk to you later about it. All right?
Okay. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with passages from what Christians call the Old Testament. And in the Jewish tradition,
it is the Bible. The Bible. And the Bible, yeah. The Torah.
Bible,
right. Go ahead.
Okay. So the first one that I want to bring up is in Exodus 13, I believe 13:21.
Yeah.
That's when God guided the Israelites through the wilderness. Remember, he had a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night.
Yeah.
And in the UFO community, they say that the pillar of cloud could have been the description of a large spacecraft, with the pillar of fire serving as like either a propulsion system or a light source. So a lot of UFO aficionados look at that scripture and say, hey, that is a description of a UFO.
Really?
Yeah.
So obviously you don't have any film to show for that.
No.
And it's no better than hearsay, but still pretty interesting.
Now the second UFO scripture is from 2 Kings. This is where the prophet Elijah was taken up into the sky by a chariot of fire. And he's accompanied by horses of fire. So I think that event kind of was a way to describe a mechanical flying object.
Did it mention anybody in this vehicle that could have been identified as some kind of a being, human or otherwise?
No, but if I have other scriptures that do.
Yeah. Okay.
So the third scripture follows immediately after the second. Elisha, which is Elijah's servant, sees the heavenly army of chariots and horses of fire. I mean, I believe that the chariots of fire surrounding Elijah were actually a squadron of spacecrafts.
Where were they? Where were they? Were they on Earth or in the Earth area, or were they?
They were in the skies.
In the skies, okay.
And the fourth UFO scripture is found in Isaiah, and the prophet, I think it's 6:18, and the prophet Isaiah had a vision. God was on his throne, surrounded by like seraphim with 6 wings. and
Seraphim.
a heavenly fire.
What's seraphim? What's a seraphim? Is that a bird?
No, they are like angels in the Bible.
Okay.
But I believe that Isaiah was looking at the mothership, God on his throne. And the ship was surrounded by smaller crafts or maybe even copter-like drones.
Wow.
So this was a primitive people trying to describe a very technological event.
Yeah.
So, now the fifth and the last of the Old Testament UFO scriptures is one of my favorites.
Okay.
Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Okay. Ezekiel describes this vision as he sees a wheel within a wheel.
Uh-huh.
It can move in any direction in the sky. And what could it be except for an encounter with a spacecraft?
Okay. So where was he? Was he on Earth? When he saw this, was he on the Earth?
Yes.
Okay, so he's looking up in the sky and he sees what we would call an unidentified flying object, right?
He does.
A UFO.
A wheel within a wheel.
Yeah, wow.
And Ezekiel's vision was accompanied by shooting fire and brightness all around it.
Okay.
So, and hey, what are they going to say back then? It's a miracle. It's God. If it was technological in nature, they wouldn't have known it.
All right, hold on a second. Hey, JP, can I see any messages? Okay, because we might have some questions about this. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, I got that already. Okay, not yet. So if you want to call the show, or better yet, send a message because it'll be a lot easier that way. And send it either to what?
The easiest way to send us a message through Facebook, X, Rumble, or YouTube.
Yeah, and make sure I see that. So I'll make sure we get it on the air. All right. So so you're saying that in the Bible that we have evidence of unexplained, possible alien ships. So let's call them ships, or
I believe so. Now,
which indicates humans or other species out there representing humans and or God that would be living during the time of the Bible, at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, one of my favorites, the absolute favorites, is UFO scripture, is in Revelation, where the Apostle John, this is in the New Testament, in the Christian New, and he goes back in time before the Torah was even written. He describes having a vision of a great battle in heaven between Michael, an archangel, and his angels, and the dragon and his angels. And there was a great battle up there. I'm pretty sure they weren't duking it out with fists.
In heaven?
In heaven.
Where's heaven?
Revelation 12:7-9.
Okay, where is heaven? Do we have a specific place that's there?
Well, when they pretty much mean anything above the earth.
Yeah.
They're talking about heaven.
Could it be the moon?
It could be all of the above. It could be the moon. It could be between constellations. It could be, what?
Yeah.
What? But anyway, so the dragon and his angels were defeated, and they fell down from the skies. And to me, this could only be a description of aerial warfare.
Yeah.
With advanced weaponry.
All right, Andrea Schrum, all I can say is this kind of reasoning can only come from someone reading God's word without revelation from Holy Spirit, God's Spirit, the author of the book. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'll read it again. All I can say is this kind of reasoning can only come from someone reading God's word without revelation from Holy Spirit, God's Spirit, the author of the book.
I see what he's
she
Andrea. I see what she means.
Yeah.
She means that it should be read in with spiritual guidance from God.
Okay.
I see what you I can't dispute that thought.
Yeah.
But there are other ways of looking at things. And
yeah, I mean there's so many unknown things about the universe. Let's talk about the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, how did the universe get started? How did it get to be billions and billions and billions and who knows how long the universe has been there, and what was there before, and what will be there after? I mean, it's amazing the stuff that can be.
Well, you know what? We can go back to our conversation.
All right, here's a pastor calling in.
Good.
The heaven he's talking about is the second heaven. There's the earth and the second heaven, which is the atmosphere above the earth, and the third heaven where God reigns. It's a pastor, so she's better understanding than I do. Okay.
So sometimes when people are describing events in the heaven, they're actually talking about in the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. It's interesting stuff. So
it isn't. And there's one more I just wanted to touch base on.
Yes.
In Matthew, the book of Matthew, one of the apostles, that's where he saw. He writes about the wise men from the east following a star that led them to the birthplace of Christ Jesus, right?
Right.
I don't know about you, but I've never seen a slow-moving star leading me anywhere. And that almost makes me think that it might have been a spacecraft guiding the wise.
Well, that's possible. Yeah. How would they know what it was? Were these guys, were they regular people, or were they somehow like saints?
Oh, the apostles?
Huh?
The apostles, they were chosen by God.
The wise men were they were educated men who had been looking for the sign of a star to come for quite a while.
Oh, you're talking about the wise men.
Yeah. Weren't you talking about that?
From what I understand, they were practitioners of the Zoroastrian religion, and they spent all of their lives studying the heavens, the stars, and the planets.
Okay.
And evidently, they saw something going through our atmosphere that led them to believe that something very special was about to occur.
Okay. Now, Pastor Pat has a few things more. Yes, the atmosphere above the earth, and the second heaven is where the battles take place, and when you can feel it on earth too. Then when you can feel it on earth too. The second heaven is where the battles take place, and then you can feel it on earth too.
That's interesting. I'd like to find out more about that.
Well, she's a pastor.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, she's good. She's good. All right. So, future predictions. Is the end of the world coming soon? Because there's a lot of stuff about that in the Bible. And will we be fighting to populate our own moon before Mars and others? I'm hearing that on today's news.
I think that Elon Musk is very aware that we're going to have to move off of our planet sooner or later.
Yeah.
That's why he's all about colonizing Mars.
My point is, what they're saying now, and China is considering, is that those that get to the moon and control that first have a huge advantage
militarily
over the rest, because they'll be in charge of all the earthly things, all the radar and everything else that comes with the Earth. They'll be in charge of it.
That's why Trump put together his Space Force.
Yeah.
He understands that the future battles will be fought from space.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
It's like one of those movies that are coming that you'd think it was just all fantasy, and it's like it's happening.
Like
I mean,
Star Wars.
you know that we have the technology to probably take over the moon or something like that, and that would be a huge advantage because they'd be controlling everything on Earth too. I mean, here we're talking about the beginning of the real space adventures. I think this is pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to bring in something else.
Yes.
That you may be aware of, or some people may be aware of. When we sent up a camera spaceship to Mars, we took pictures of an area called Cydonia.
Yeah.
And on the Cydonia region, they took pictures of what looked to be a giant face, like a sphinx-like face that was on the face of Mars.
Did he have a beard, and was he wearing a Trump hat?
I don't think so.
Okay. We're out.
Okay.
Just thought I'd ask, but go ahead. No, that's interesting. Yes.
Anyway,
in other words, there's indication of previous activity on Mars that might be from anywhere.
I think that there was activity on Mars long before we were even on Earth.
Why? Maybe that was the answer right there when your phone rang.
Well, because these artifacts that they saw on the face of Mars seem to be from antiquity. They seem to be in like ruins.
Okay.
And have you ever seen a movie called Stargate?
I don't think so.
It was made after the Cydonia sighting, and it talked about.
Now, is that a closed subject for most people?
No, it's open to discussion.
Really? Because there's a lot of things out there that we don't know, obviously, because of our government. Is that not true? Or our governments all over the world?
It is true.
Yeah.
From
guess what? You only got like 2 minutes, and I'm going to have to leave. We're going to have to leave this up in the air. We're going to have to solve this some other time. All right, but we'll do it. All right. So other than Dave Weinbaum Show, where can people find and buy your book and find your music?
Well, the book is available at Amazon, Amazon.com.
Yeah.
At BarnesandNoble.com. It's in hardcover and in soft cover, and I believe you can get just the Audible version of it. And it did very well. I've got another book coming called A is for America, and it takes each letter of the alphabet and assigns it a great American person or a great American place. And it's coming out this summer.
By the way, my name is Dave Weinbaum, DW, so I'll throw that in there. My middle name is Michael, so DMW. Anyways, Richard, I was going to be an astronaut, but they ran out of space.
Oh.
Okay, I've tortured you enough. Thank you so much, Richard C. Lockwood. All right, and that's we're coming towards an end here. Do we have any other messages that I can do within a couple seconds? I don't think so. Nope. Okay. Well, listen, I thought it was a damn good show. if I must say so. And I really appreciate everyone listening and all the guests on the show. And Richard is still staring at me like he's got some kind of power. Look at him; he's still staring. In any event, we're going to be back next week. I'm going to be playing in a golf tournament with Mr. Wonderful over here that was on the show. That was my friend, Bullet. And hopefully Jack is feeling better and get him out there soon. And I'll be back with another edition of the Dave Weinbaum Show next Friday.